Welcome everybody from near and far. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Randall Martin and I'm the leader of Cymbeline in the Anthropocene, the international eco-Shakespearean performance research project, which this three-day event is showcasing and celebrating. I'm delighted to greet audiences here in person at the Black Box Theatre on the beautiful campus of Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana, as well as international spectators joining us by live streaming on our YouTube channel. If you're joining us online, you've already found our YouTube channel, but if you want to pass on the link, and please do, you can find it on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @EcoCymbeline. And you can also go to our website, Cymbelline-Anthropocene.com, click the heading Participation, go to Events, and scroll further to the YouTube link and the Zoom channel. There you'll also find a QR code, and that will give you access to the symposium program. And you'll also find a questionnaire, which we would kindly ask you to fill in over the next 3 days and for the various sessions. Joining me on Zoom this morning is our indispensable project researcher and website manager, Rebecca Salazar, recently graduated from the University of New Brunswick and now program officer at Arts New Brunswick. And I'd like Rebecca to invite Rebecca to say a few words about herself and her involvement in the project now. Rebecca, are you there?
Hi, yes, happy to join you. Yeah, welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be joining you virtually, if not in person. I'm really glad we were able to host this event in a hybrid format to be able to reach the maximum number of people. I myself was unable to travel this time, so I'm glad that I was able to join either way. I've been working with Randall on this project since about 2019 in the fall, and it's been a whole journey watching this transform from what it was initially supposed to be into the oddly more improvisational and kind of innovative project that it's become. So it's a real pleasure to join you all today and be here to hear all the culmination of 3 years worth of research and performances. So back over to Randall. Thank you so much and welcome again.
Thanks very much, Rebecca. I'm so glad you can join us today virtually. Rebecca and I are thrilled to be co-hosting this event with the wonderfully generous and hospitable contribution of Montana Shakespeare in the Parks, led by their artistic director, Kevin Aslan. And he's joined here today by MSIP's dramaturge, Gretchen Minton. I'll invite Kevin now to say something about Montana Shakespeare in the Parks. And then also I'll invite Royce Smith, Dean of the College of Arts and Architecture here at MSU, to say some words of welcome.
Thanks, Randall. Welcome, everybody. It's an honor to have you all here with us here on the campus of Montana State University. We have been honored to be a part of this wonderful project on behalf of Montana Shakespeare in the Parks, and we're really looking forward to sharing our materials. The clips that we have, a great reminder of what we accomplished last summer. And it's a great honor also to have Dr. Dean Royce Smith with us today, the Dean of the College of Arts and Architecture.
Yeah, I want to just share my welcome to all of you this morning on behalf of President Cruzado and Provost Macua to this special moment. The College of Arts and Architecture at Montana State University is dedicated to the education of the sons and daughters of the working families of America and around the world. And one of the things that is most important about the land-grant mission at Montana State is connections. As we start talking more about creativity instead of COVID, this conference and this symposium, I think, illustrates in a very important way the relationships that Shakespeare and creativity can establish to help us get reconnected with each other. So whether you're joining us here in Montana or whether you happen to be somewhere else around the world, I welcome you to an important day and thank our team for such a wonderful opportunity of robust discussions and performances today. Kevin?
Thank you, Royce. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randall.
Thanks, Royce. I cannot thank Montana Shakespeare in the Parks enough for welcoming us so warmly. And in particular, I'd like to thank some of the MSIP staff with whom I've been directly involved, Director of Community Partnerships, Callie Hamilton, and Megan Cerullo, Director of Community Access and Engagement. They've offered me very cheerful help in coordinating this event and decorating the Black Box Theatre lobby with a wonderful array of Cymbeline in the Anthropocene photographs. I'd also like to thank our event hospitality manager, Kevin Brewstruin, who is president also of the Bozeman Actors Theatre and co-founder of Montana Insight Theatre. This whole project, including this week's symposium, could not have happened without the generous support of the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. And in the case of our contributing production from Buenos Aires, without funding from the Canadian Embassy to Argentina. The Cymbeline in the Anthropocene project was initially supported by the Office of Research and Faculty of Arts at the University of New Brunswick, and our SSHRC funding is now managed by the Office of Research and Department of English and Writing Studies at the University of Western Ontario. And in particular there, I'd like to thank the Western staff, Elizabeth McIntosh and Gregory D'Souza, for their technical and administrative help. Last but not least, I want to thank our project collaborators and theatre makers. This project could not have happened without their incredible creative energy, dedication, and generous contributions of their time. I have just been blown away by how marvelously collaborative and forthgiving they have been to me and to this project and to Rebecca during this whole journey. I have been deeply touched and humbled by their cooperation and collaboration in this whole project. And I want to thank them from the bottom of my hearts. I will say something a little bit about each of them here, but you'll get a fuller biography of the individual participants when we introduce their sessions hour by hour. Evelyn O'Malley is joining us online on Zoom from the University of Exeter today. She teaches in the Department of Drama at the University of Exeter, as I've mentioned. Sue Best and Phil Bowen are here from the Willow Globe Theatre in Powys, Wales. They are co-directors of the theatre there. Rob Conkey is a theatre director and university instructor based in Melbourne, Australia. Monica Mafia is director of the Buenos Aires theatre company Setebos in Argentina, as well as a playwright and librettist, and she is here with us all the way from Argentina in person today. Theo Black is a theatre instructor at Cornell University. Billy Wolfgang, who is also in person with us today, teaches at Stevenson University in Maryland and is founding director of the Orange Mite Theatre Company. Katie Brokaw, joining us online, is professor of English at University of California, Merced, and co-founder of the Shakespeare in Yosemite Theatre Company. And Paul Prescott, also professor of English at the University of Merced, and is another co-founder of the same Shakespeare in Yosemite company. If I've missed anybody in my thanks this morning, please accept my sincere thank yous as well. Before saying something about Cymbeline in the Anthropocene's journey over the past 2.5 years, I want to acknowledge that we are respectful visitors to the ancestral lands of the indigenous peoples on which Montana State University is located, the Apsaluke, Stowe, and Salish tribes. Cymbeline in the Anthropocene's original vision was to launch a groundbreaking experiment in ecodramaturgy with 3 main goals. First, to translate academic eco-criticism of past and present ecologies in Shakespeare into applied theatre and public humanities activism. Second, it proposed creating a website-based research archive that would document the creative discoveries of individual Cymbeline performances and bring them into collective and global conversations. And third, we plan to assess and celebrate the project's knowledge creation process in a public performance festival, followed at a later date by migration of our research archive to a permanent home. I'm delighted to say that our gathering today represents the fulfillment of all these goals, with the permanent archive to be established at Western University this coming fall. But of course, the past 2.5 years have been a much rougher and longer journey than we could ever have imagined at the beginning of this project. COVID shutdowns began just 2 weeks after the project's initial planning meeting, attended by collaborating directors, dramaturgs, and translators in late February 2020. As all of you know, after that point, borders closed, theaters were shuttered, live performances were suspended worldwide, and the exciting plans of our contributors were put on hold. We started off with 10 participating companies on 4 continents. But because of COVID and its works, we lost 5 of them. Sadly, these included all 3 companies from Asia and 1 from Canada, which I found impossible to replace during the pandemic. Our hopes were unexpectedly brightened, however, by the addition of 2 new companies and 1 continent along the way: Monica Mafia's Buenos Aires-based troupe, Setibos, and drama students led by Theo Black at Cornell University. The research pathways of all our research goals, the groundbreaking eco-dramaturgy, production and performance archive, and today's symposium, have also been disrupted, of course, by the pandemic. On the one hand, the suppression of in-person travel and lines of normal communication constrained the nature of the production materials we've been able to track and document. We also had to abandon much of the empirical field work that we had planned at live performances. On the other hand, our contributing shows became subject to pandemic risks and dislocations. They became more flexible and creative. In that sense, paradoxically, the pandemic became an artistically liberating and reconnective experience. The new stories which scriptwriters and directors reinvented through Shakespeare's plays have been edgier and become more edgy and more urgent. Pandemic adversity has heightened public awareness of related environmental precarities and historical injustices. Our contributing performances from Australia, the US, Argentina, and England have accordingly amplified Cymbelline's anti-imperial and decolonizing resistance to environmental degradation and exploitation of locally marginalized land, people, and animals. The physical circumstances of the project shows have also become more deeply enmeshed in both pandemic and Anthropocene crises, like the necessarily intrusive health and safety measures imposed on both actors and audiences. Entire performance platforms have shifted in these past 2.5 years, like Shakespeare and Yosemite's bold decision to make a feature film of their show called Imogen in the Wild, and Cornell University's alternative cinematic video performance, Once Upon a Time in the Anthropocene. The usual provision of rain venues for Montana Shakespeare in the Park's summer outdoor performances gravitated in 2021 to more frequent indoor refuges from violent storms and wildfire smoke aggravated by climate change. I'd never thought of telling individual theater makers what to do with their Cymbellines, other than asking them to think about their interpretations from local environmental perspectives. Likewise, I always planned the network's distributed structure to be bottom-up. In fact, the pandemic's volatility has compelled the project to become more decentralized and more open to artistic and collaborative improvisations, and that freedom has also nourished eco-Shakespeare creativity. Moreover, COVID hiatuses encouraged Cymbeline in the Anthropocene to seek out wider connections with other environmentally sympathetic performance projects, such as UC Merced's amazing Spanish-English video production Ricardo Segundo, directed by Katie Brokaw, Paul Prescott, and Billy Wolfgang, which we serialized on our website. Several university professors, such as Hilary Eklund at Loyola University in New Orleans, also had more time to incorporate our website resources into their semester courses and encourage their students to use them to create their own musical and visual forms of contemporary eco-Shakespeare. These were more unexpected bonuses during the lengthened run of the project. Personally, I'm proud of the fact that Rebecca and I have managed to post weekly, sometimes twice weekly, blogs throughout the whole pandemic, with a bit of time off for holidays, despite the unavoidably long gaps between contributing shows. As many of you are aware, the global origins and pathologies of COVID-19 are all related, either directly or indirectly, to humans imagining themselves as separate beings from other creatures on the planet, and our foolish attempts to control nature exclusively for our own gratification. These imaginative failures and cultural wrong turns have now made us the vulnerable object of nature's always superior powers, which are almost coming to seem like vengeance for our past abuses. It's therefore fair to say, I think, that perhaps the biggest impact of the Anthropocene-related pandemic has been to turn the project's adaptations and collaborations into a kind of meta-work of theatrical and cultural resilience. That outward orientation has, in turn, enhanced our awareness of the diverse forms of resilience enacted by Shakespeare's characters in Cymbeline. The humanely ethical Dr. Cornelius, for example, the loyally resourceful Pisanio, the corruption-defying Belarius, the misogynist, but hopefully corrigible Posthumus, and the courageous but precarious Inogen, as they all face personal tragedy, environmental dangers and dislocations, and incipient political and social breakdowns. These various crises we recognize are now similarly shaping the new future normal of the 21st century Anthropocene. By way of some thumbnails about each of our contributing productions, I'll finish these opening remarks by saying just a bit more about how each of them have clarified and expanded the rapidly emerging concept of Anthropocene resilience. The scientific principle of resilience is grounded in the ecology of species protection and sustainability in the face of geophysical disturbances. Its eco-critical potential in Cymbeline was one of the reasons I chose the play as our common focal point. Yet the genre mixing and hybrid performance media of many of our productions have taken resilience to new levels of meaning and value. These are not, however, the greenwashed resilience of neoliberal consumer capitalism, interested in survival only for the sake of rushing back to the business of extracting the planet to prop up the destructive dream of endless human-centered growth. Anthropocene resilience is not just a matter of going back to the way things were. As Kevin Grove puts it, it now must mean bouncing forward as well as bouncing backward. It's a double movement of preparing for unpredictable future threats, but it also obliges us to mitigate our arrogant harms in the most unselfish ways possible. Shakespeare, this project has shown, I think, can lead us in those positive directions. Contributors to Cymbeline in the Anthropocene have been mobilizing equitable resilience in their dramatic appropriations of Shakespeare's conceptual and narrative templates. Shakespeare in Yosemite, for example, remaps Cymbeline's British-Roman War onto a now endemic Anthropocene clash between urban developers and wilderness conservationists and park rangers in their film, Imogen in the Wild. University of Exeter's adaptation Gold and Silver Turned to Dust similarly scales down Shakespeare's geopolitics to a local dispute between a quick profit building scheme in Wales and the local community's counter-proposal of an eco-housing project of environmentally sustainable new homes. Gretchen Minton's eco-feminist adaptation of Cymbeline for Montana Shakespeare in the Parks juxtaposes the resilient ethos of Wales against the materialist extravagance of the royal court by rewriting Shakespeare's Valerius, Guiderius, and Arviragus as a mother and daughter powerhouse of redemptive nature. Voracious consumer culture is the target of Cornell University's Once Upon a Time in the Anthropocene. Its playfully creepy use of female body and fast food imagery, poetry, and lyrical music constructs a moving ecofeminist critique while also encouraging younger audiences of all genders to embrace ecological values that will reverse the myopically destructive individualism of older generations. The contemporary soundscape and dynamic music videos of Imogen in the Wild likewise advance emotionally upbeat aesthetics to inspire future-forward climate action and resilience by younger spectators, and older ones too. The relocation of Cymbelline's storylines to contemporary settings, such as the traumatizing Australian bushfires of the La Trobe University production, or the intentionally torched mountain homelands of the Twelche people in Setebos's Cymbeline in La Patagonia, connect the play's action to audiences' present-day experiences of near-death survival in the face of devastating climate change and predatory extractive industries. Anthropocene resilience becomes even more tangible in today's increasingly risky conditions of outdoor performance, such as the storm-blown and smoky air reality of many of the Montana in the Shakespeare Park's sites, which hosted the company's Cymbeline last summer. By contrast, the Willow Glow performance seems like a healing antidote. Its phenomenally green performance site seems to invite the collaboration of a lively bird chorus with the music and dancing performances throughout its production. The latter also sport lots of artfully upcycled costumes and props by community theater makers. Finally, Cymbeline in the Anthropocene has also stimulated forward-bouncing resilience in the form of educational and socially conscious activism. An outstanding example at the university level is UC Merced undergraduate Amber Loper's recreation of Cymbeline as a post-human screenplay for children. Entitled A Caged Bird's Song, an avian adaptation of Shakespeare's Cymbeline, it reimagines Shakespeare's characters in the play as different species of West Coast birds. Their avian perspectives invite young audiences to identify with the struggles of their feathered friends to survive in the wildfire-ravaged habitats of California, 21st century California. At the secondary level, Los Angeles high school teacher Isabella Camfield has designed a wonderful student-researched public website of educational resources for Imogen in the Wild. The website invites students and teachers also to share their experiences of Los Angeles industrial pollution and urban climate change. Its emphasis on racial inclusion further transforms public engagement with Imogen in the Wild into a civic forum for social and environmental justice. You can find blogs about these and other projects which we have collaborated with on our website. Again, that's Cymbeline-Anthropocene.com. Having offered you a brief tour of our COVID-conflicted history and innovative forms of eco-critical and community activism, let's now take a look at the main event, which is the fantastically diverse and innovative range of performances that have contributed to this project. I've run, of course, short of the next hour on our first session, but that's okay. People are joining us from around the world, I know. And so I think that's the imperative for us to keep to our timeline of our scheduled program. And so we'll now have a brief break, and we'll rejoin you at 10 o'clock local time for our first session, zoomed in from Wales from the Willow Theatre. Thanks very much again for making time to join us this morning and over the next 3 days. Welcome back, everybody, to our Cymbeline in the Anthropocene Performance Festival. This is the first of our performance and discussion sessions, and joining us on Zoom from Powys, Wales are Phil Bowen and Sue Best, co-directors of the Willow Globe Shakespeare Company. Phil Bowen has been a professional actor all his life. He started as the back end of a donkey in Puss in Boots, and his subsequent career spanned foreign touring for British Council seasons and in rep at Regent's Park, London, touring the world with Sir Michael Redgrave in Shakespeare's People, and playing Hamlet at the Young Vic. He has numerous film and TV credits, and he met his wife, Sue Best, when they were both working for Michael Bogdanov's global tour of The Wars of the Roses, which personally, I'll say, deeply influenced my impressions and knowledge of Shakespeare's history plays. Sue Best is a freelance director, and together with Phil, they inaugurated the Shakespeare Link. The company aims to use the words and wisdom of Shakespeare not only within the frame of performance and academe, but as a medium for communication, discovery, and debate across the board. Working with all ages and stages, they have toured the world, often for the British Council, and participated in festivals, staged at prisons, schools, theatres, village halls, and fields. Now based in mid-Wales, they were fortunate to have a field in which to plant the Willow Globe, where they welcome all comers to its leafy intimacy. Please do visit them when you're able to. I'm certainly looking forward to now that things have opened up. I'll just explain for a moment our usual format in these sessions. It consists of kind of 3 different parts. We'll start with the main event, which of course is the performance clips from the various shows. Then there'll be a presentation, either live on Zoom or in person here, or pre-recorded. Some people have sent in pre-recorded presentations. And that will be followed by a question and answer session taking us to the end of the time. Or if we, again, come a bit short of the end of our hour, we'll take another break. And again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we'll keep to our timetable, take a break, and come back to that in this session. So let's join Sue and Phil from Powys, Wales, and their performance extracts from their Cymbeline.
Bloods obey the heavens. Our courtiers, the king. But what is the matter?
His daughter Imogen, whom he intended to marry his wife's sole son,
She, a widow that late he married,
hath referred herself unto a poor but worthy gentleman.
She's wedded. Her husband banished. She imprisoned.
All is outward sorrow, but I think the king be touched at very heart, and none but the king.
So is the queen, who most desired the match. But all the courtiers, although they wear their faces with the king, are glad at the thing they scowl at.
Why so?
He that hath lost her is a thing too bad for bad report.
And he that hath her, I mean that married her and therefore banished,
so fair and outward, such stuff within endows no man but he.
You speak him far. What is his name and birth?
His father fought against the Romans with Cymbeline, and served with great glory and admired success. So gained the surname Leonatus.
He had 2 sons who in the wars of the time died with their swords in hand, for which their father such sorrow took that he quit being. And his lady, big of this gentleman, died too as he was born. King Cymbeline takes the babe to his protection.
Calls him posthumous Leonatus.
Breeds him.
Puts to him learning.
Which he took, as we do air, fast as 'twas ministered.
And lives at court most rarely praised.
Most loved.
And for his mistress, for whom he now is banished, her price proclaims how she esteems him, and what kind of man he is.
I honour him, but tell me, is he sole child to the king?
His only child.
He had 2 sons. The first at 3 years old.
In the swathing clothes the other, from their nursery, was stolen. No knowledge where they went.
How long is this ago?
Some 20 years.
I marvel that such princes should be so slackly guarded that could not trace them.
'Tis strange, yet is it true, friends? We must forbear. Here comes this posthumous, the queen and princess.
No, be assured, you shall not find me, daughter, after the slander of most stepmothers, evil-eyed unto you. You are my prisoner, but your jailer shall deliver you the keys that lock up your restraint. For you, Posthumus, so soon as I can win the offended king, I will be known your advocate. Marry, yet the fire rages in him, and 'twere best you lent unto his sentence with what patience your wisdom may inform you.
Please, your highness, I will from hence today.
You know the peril. I'll fetch a turn about the garden, pitying the pangs of barred affections, yet the king hath charged you should not speak together.
Oh, dissembling courtesy! How fine this tyrant can tickle where she wounds!
My queen, my mistress, O lady, weep no more. I will remain the loyalest husband that did e'er plight troth. My residence in Rome, the one for Larius, who was my father's friend. There write, my queen, and with mine eyes I'll drink the words you send, though ink be made of gold.
Be brief, I pray you. If the king come, I shall incur displeasure. Yet I'll move him to walk this way. I do him wrong, and he pays dear for my offences.
Adieu.
Oh, nay, stay a little. Well, this diamond was my mother's. Take it, heart. But keep it till you woo another wife, when Imogen is dead.
How, another? You gentle gods, remain thou here, while sense can keep it on. And sweetest, fairest, for my sake, wear this, a manacle of love.
This is where he went.
Alack the king.
Ah! Thou basest thing, avoid! If, after this command, thou fraught the court with thy unworthiness, thou diest. Away! Thou'rt poison to my blood.
The gods protect you.
Thou!
I'm gone.
Oh, thou disloyal thing, thou heapest age on me. Past grace, obedience.
Past hope and in despair.
Thou mightest have had the sole son of my queen.
Bless that I might not. I chose an eagle and did avoid a puttock.
You chose a beggar. Wouldst have made my throne a seat of baseness, oh, thou vile one.
Sir, it is your fault that I have loved Posthumus. You bred him as my playfellow, and he is a man worth any woman. Overbuys me almost the sum he pays.
What, art thou mad?
Almost, sir, heaven restore me. Would I were a shepherd's daughter, and my Leonatus, our neighbour shepherd's son.
Oh, thou foolish thing. They were again together. Thou hast not done after our command. Away with her and pen her up.
Beseech your patience. You must give way. Sweet suffering, leave us to ourselves.
Nay, let her languish. Die of this folly. Oh.
Here is your servant. How now, sir? What news?
Only that your son drew upon my master.
No harm is done, I trust.
Oh, there may have been, but rather than my master played them for. They were parted by gentlemen at hand.
Oh, I am glad.
Oh, your son's my father's friend. He takes this part to draw upon an exile. Oh, brave sir, Well, why came you from your master?
On his command, he wishes you to me employed.
Your faithful servant.
I humbly thank your highness.
I pray you, walk a while. About some half hour hence, I pray you speak with me. You shall at least go see my lord aboard. But this time, leave me.
I shall, madam.
I want to become the queen.
Sir, I would advise you to shift a shirt.
I'm near to the place where they would meet, if Pisanio have mapped it truly. How fit his garments serve me. Why should his mistress not be fit too? Posthumus, thy head, which is now growing upon thy shoulders, shall within this hour be off. Thy mistress enforced, thy garments cut to pieces before her face. All this being done, I'll spurn her home to her father, who may haply be a little angry with my so rough usage, but my mother will turn all into my commendations. My horse is tied up safe, outsword, and to a sore purpose. Fortune, put them into my hand. This is the very description of their meeting place, and the fellow would not deceive me.
You are not well. Remain here in the cave. We'll come to you after hunting.
Brother, stay here. Are we not brothers? So man and man should be. I am very sick.
I'll abide with him.
I am so sick I am not well. So please, leave me. Stick to your journal cause. I am ill, but your being by me cannot amend me. Society is no comfort to one not sociable. I am not very sick, since I can reason of it.
But I love thee as much as I do love my father.
What? How? How?
If it be sin to say so, I yoke me in my good brother's fault. I know not why I love this youth, and I have heard you say love's reasons without reason. The hearse at door and who should die? I'd say my father.
Oh, noble strain, oh worthiness of nature, breed of greatness. Cowards father cowards, and base things sire base. Nature hath meal and bran, contempt and grace. I am not their father, yet who this should be, doth miracle itself. Love before me. 'Tis the 9th hour of the morn.
Brother, farewell.
I wish ye sport.
You house. So please you, sir.
These are kind creatures. Thus, what lies I have heard. Our courtiers say all savage but at court. Experience thou disprovest report. I am sick still, heart sick. Pisanio, I'll now taste of thy drug.
We'll leave you for this time. Go in and rest.
You'll not be long away.
Pray be not seen, for you must be our housewife.
Well or ill, I am bound to you.
And shalt be ever. Well, 'tis great morning. Come away.
Who's there?
I cannot find those renegades. The villain hath mocked me. I am faint.
Those renegades? Means he not us? I partly know him. 'Tis Cloten, the son of the Queen. I fear some ambush. I've seen him not these many years, yet I know 'tis he. We are taken for outlaws, hence.
He is but one. You, my brothers, go seek what companies are abroad. Pray you, away. Let me alone with him. Soft. What are you that fly me thus? Some villain mountaineers. I have heard of such. What slave? What robber? Yield thee, thief!
To who? To thee? What art thou? Have I not an arm as big as thine? A heart as big? Why should I yield to thee?
Thou, injurious thief! Hear but my name and tremble!
What's thy name?
Cloten, thou villain!
Cloten, how double villain be thy name? Were it snake, toad, spider, 'twould move me sooner.
Art not afeard?
Those that I reverence, those I fear. Fools I laugh, not fear them.
Die the death! When I have slain thee with my proper hand, I'll follow those that even now fled hence. And on the gates of Ludstown set your heads! Yield! Rustic mountaineer! Ah!
Cloten! The villain!
Yield!
Yield!
No companies abroad?
None in the world. You did mistake him, sure.
I cannot tell, but long is it since I saw him, but time hath nothing blurred those marks of favour which then he wore. The snatches in his voice and burst of speaking were as his. I am absolute to his very Cloten.
In this place we left them. I wish my brother make good time with him. You say he is so fell.
Being scarce bade up to man, he showed no fear. But see thy brother.
This Cloten was a fool! An empty purse! He had no money in it. Not Hercules could have knocked out his brains, for he had none. And I, not doing this, the fool bore my head as I do his.
What hast thou done?
I'm perfect what? Cut off one Cloten's head. Son to the Queen by his own report. Would call me traitor, mountaineer, and swore he'd displace our heads and set them on Ludstown.
We are all undone.
My brother hath done well.
And with his own sword, which he did wave against my throat, I ta'en his head from him. I'll send it to the creek, let it to the sea, and tell the fishes that he's the Queen's son, Cloten.
'Twill be revenged.
Would I had done it. Polydor, I envy much. Thou hast robbed me of this deed.
Well, 'tis done. To our rock. You and Fidelity play the cooks. I'll bring your hasty brother to dinner presently.
Oh, sick for daily. I'll willingly to him.
Oh, divine nature, thou show'st thyself in these two princely boys. They are as gentle as zephyrs blowing beneath violet, and yet as rough, their royal blood enchafed, as the rudest winds that shake the mountain pine. Invisible instinct frames them to honour untaught. Yet still it's strange what Cloten's being here to us portends, or what his death might bring us.
Where is my brother? I have sent Cloten's clothole down the stream in embassy to his mother.
Hark, my ingenious instrument. Hark, Polydor, it sounds. But what occasion of Cadwell now to give it motion? Hark.
Since death of our dearest mother. Did not speak before. Was Cadwell mad?
The bird is dead, that we have made so much on.
Oh, rarest life, how found you him?
Stark, as you see, smiling as some fly hid tickled slumber, his cheek on a cushion, with fairest flowers, while summer lasts and I live here for daily. I'll sweeten thy sad grave, thou shalt not lock the flower that's like thy face, pale primrose, nor the azur'd harebell like thy veins, nor the leaf of eglantine, whom, not to slander, outsweeten not thy breath. The ruddock wood with charitable bill bring thee all this? Yea, and furred moss besides when flowers are known, to win to ground thy cause.
Come, lay him down.
Great griefs I see medicine the less, for Cloten is quite forgot. He was a queen's son, boys, and though he came our enemy, remember he was paid for that. Our foe was princely, and though you took his life as being our foe, yet bury him as a prince.
Pray you, fetch him hither.
You'll go fetch him, we'll say our song the whilst. Brother, begin.
Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done. Home art gone, and ta'en thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers come to dust.
Fear no more the frown of the great. Thou art past the tyrant's stroke. Care no more to clothe and eat. To thee the reed is as the oak. The sceptre, learning, physic must all follow this and come to dust.
Fear no more the lightning flash,
Nor the all-dreaded thunderstone.
fear not slander, censure rash.
Thou hast finished joy and moan.
All lovers young, all lovers must consign to thee and come to dust. No exerciser harm thee,
Nor no witchcraft charm thee.
ghosts unlaid forbear thee.
Nothing ill come near thee.
Quiet consummation have,
and
renowned
renowned
be thy grave. Come, we have done our obsequies. Lay him down.
Here's a few flowers, and strewings fixed for grave. You were as flowers once, now withered. Even so these herblets shall, which we upon you strow. Come, away, the ground has them again. Their pleasures here are past, so is their pain.
Yes, sir. To Milford Haven. Oh, which is the way? Well, thank you. Pray, how far? Oh, can it be 6 miles yet? Faith, I'll lie down. Oh, gods and goddesses. These flowers are like the pleasures of the world. This bloody man the care on't. Well, I hope I dream. For so I thought I was a cave dweller and cook to honest creatures, but 'tis not so. 'Twas but a bolt of nothing, shot at nothing. I tremble still with fear. Yet if there be yet left in heaven a drop of pity as small as a wren's eye, feared gods, a part of it? Oh, the dream's still here. But not imagined, felt. A headless man. Oh, the garments of Posthumus, but his face is gone. It is gone. Pisanio! Ah, damned Pisanio hath, with his forged letters, oh, Posthumus, alas, oh, damned Pisanio. What is he and Cloten's doing? Oh, 'tis pregnant. The cordial he gave me, which he said was precious and special to me, well, this confirms it home. Oh, this is Pisanio's deed, and Cloten's. Oh.
But hey, or dead or sleeping, The dead, rather, for nature doth abhor to sleep upon the dead. Let's see the boy's face.
He's alive, my lord.
You'll then instruct us of this body. Young one, whose trunk makes out that bloody pillow? What's thy interest in this sad wreck? How camest? Who is't and what art thou?
I am nothing. Ah, this, my master that here by mountaineers lies slain. Alas, there is no more such masters. I may try many, all good, serve truly, and never find another.
Thou movest no less with thy complaining than thy master in bleeding. Say thy name, good youth.
For daily, sir.
Thou provest thyself the same. Thy name well fits thy faith thy name. Wilt take thy chance with me? I will not say thou shalt be so well mastered, but be sure no less beloved. Thy worth prefers thee. Come.
I'll follow, sir. But first, and please the gods, I'll hide my master from the flies, and strew with wildwood and weeds his grave. Say prayers, then follow. So please you entertain me.
The boy has taught us manly duties. Let us seek out the prettiest daisied plot we can and make a grave. Come, boy, and wipe thine eyes. Some falls are means the happier to arise.
"'Tis our mistress! And if she be living, let time go on from good to bad."
Come stand by my side. Make thy demand aloud. Sir, step you forth. Give answer to this boy and do it freely.
My boon is that this gentleman may render of whom he got that ring.
What's that to him?
Sir, that diamond upon your finger, say how came it you?
I am glad to be constrained to utter that which torments me to conceal your daughter's chastity. There it begins. He spake of her as Diane. Mine Italian brain can operate most vilely for my purpose, and to be brief, my practice so prevailed that I returned with tokens, notes of pictures, her bracelet. Oh, cunning, how I got it. Nay, marks about her person, whereupon methinks I see him yet.
Aye, so thou dost, Italian fiend. Ay me, most credulous fool. Thou king, send out for torturers ingenious. I am Posthumus, he that killed thy daughter. Nay, villain, like I lie, I cause a lesser villain than myself to do it. Oh, Imogen, my queen, my life, my wife, oh, Imogen, Imogen, Imogen!
Oh, peace, my lord! Here, here!
Oh, scornful page, there lie thy part!
"Oh, gentlemen, mine and your mistress, oh, my lord Posthumus!"
You ne'er killed Imogen till now. Help! Help, mine honoured lady!
Does the world go round?
Oh, wake my sweet mistress!
If this be so, the gods do mean to strike me to death with mortal joy.
How fares my mistress?
Oh, get thee from my sight! Thou gavest me poison!
Oh, that pouch I gave you, mistress, I had it from the Queen. I thought it was something precious. I had it from the Queen.
Oh, gods! I left out one thing which the Queen confessed. Have you ta'en of it?
I did, for I was dead.
Oh, my boys, our error.
Why did you throw your wedded lady from you? Think that you were upon a rock and now throw me again?
Hang there like fruit, my soul till the tree die.
Oh no, my flesh, my child. Wilt thou speak to me?
Your blessing, sir.
My tears that fall prove holy water on thee. Imogen, thy mother's dead. Cloten, her son, is gone, we know not how nor where.
Let me end the story. I slew him there.
Valiant youth! Deny it again.
I have said it, and I did it.
He was a prince.
A most incivil one. The wrongs he did me were nothing prince-like. If he to provoke me with language that would make me spurn the sea, if it could so roar to me, a cut-off's head. And I'm right glad he's not standing here to tell this tale of mine.
I'm sorry for thee. By thine own tongue thou art condemned, and must endure our law. Thou art dead.
Stay, Sir King. This man is better than the man he slew, as well descended as thyself, and hath more of thee merited than a band of Clotons. Let him alone. Thou hadst, great king, a subject called Bellarius.
What of him? He is a banished traitor.
He it is that hath assumed this age. Indeed, a banished man, I know not how a traitor.
Take him hence.
First, pay me for the nursing of thy sons.
Nursing of my sons?
Great sir, these boys are none of mine. They are yours, my liege. Their blood of your begetting.
How? My blood?
So sure as you your fathers. I, old Morgan, am that Bellarius whom you sometime banished. Your pleasure was my least offence. Beaten for loyalty incited me to treason. I stole these princes, and for 20 years have I trained them up. But, gracious sir, here are your sons again.
I lost my children. If these be they, I know not how to wish a pair of worthier sons.
Be pleased a while. This gentleman, my Polydor, is, great sir, true Guiderius. This gentleman, my Cadwal, Arviragus, your younger princely son. He, sir, was lapped in a most curious mantle wrought by his mother, which I can with ease produce.
Guiderius had upon his neck a mole, a star of wonder.
He hath it still. 'Tis nature's evidence now.
What am I? A mother to the birth of 3! Oh, Imogen, thou hast lost by this a kingdom.
Oh no, my lord, I have 2 worlds by it. Oh, gentle brothers, have we thus met? Oh, you called me brother when I was but your sister. Ah, you brothers when you were, sir, indeed.
Did you ever meet?
Aye, my good lord.
And at first meeting loved, until we thought he died.
Oh, rare instinct. When shall I hear all through? How, where, and when? But nor's the time nor place for such long interrogatories. See, Posthumus anchors on Imogen, and she, like harmless lightning, throws her eye on him, her brothers, on me, her master, hitting each object with a joy. Let's quit this place, and smoke the temple with our sacrifices. Thou art my brother, and will remain so ever.
You are my father too, and did relieve me to see this gracious season.
So, all overjoyed, save these in bonds. Let them be joyful too. The forlorn soldier that so nobly fought, he would have well become this place, and graced the thankings of a king.
I am, sir, the soldier that did company these 3, in poor beseeming, and that I was he. Speak, Iachimo. I had you down and might have made you finish.
I am down again. But now my heavy conscience sinks my knee as then your force did. Take this life, beseech you, which I so often owe. But first, your ring. And here, the bracelet of the truest princess that ever swore her faith.
Kneel not to me. The power that I have on you is to spare you. The malice towards you, to forgive you. Live, and deal with others better.
Nobly doomed. We'll learn our freeness of a son-in-law. Pardons, the word to all. Publish we this peace to all our subjects. Set we forward. Let a British and a Roman ensign wave friendly together. So to Ludstown march, and in the temple of great Jupiter our peace we'll ratify. Seal it with feasts. Set on there! Never was a war did cease ere bloody hands were washed with such a peace.
Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou a worldly task hast done. Go home art gone and take thy wages. Golden lads and girls, oh must, as chimney sweepers come to dust. Golden lads and girls, oh must, as chimney sweepers come to dust. No exercise of army, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Go some way forbear thee, nothing will come near thee. No exercise of army, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Go some way forbear thee, nothing will come near thee. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave.
Welcome to the Willow Glow.
And thank you so much for watching our clips. Randall, you set us such a hard job to try and cut it all out because the whole thing is such a huge story. So to try and just focus on those little scenes was really hard, but we hope they make sense.
You'll notice that when we did the show, there were very few people in the audience because we weren't allowed more than 20, was it?
25, I think.
25 people watching the show, whereas this
Because of social
auditorium
distancing, because it's so
holds
small.
100.
It'll hold 100 in real life, but not in a COVID life. We always try to work as a company in a very inclusive way, and if we can find a way of everybody being involved early in the show, then that's how we'd like to go. So it seemed a gift with such a complex storytelling bit of text that everybody would have a hand in telling that story.
It's a long story. It's a very complicated story, actually. What have you got, 3 hours to tell it?
Yeah, but all those characters are sort of introduced beforehand, which is great. So you'll also have noticed in that first introduction when we're telling the story that there was a set, we've got a kind of set that's framed by 2 banners, green banners with Welsh wool down the front, which we're hoping will give it a kind of local provenance. And it's unusual for us to have a set because normally we just rely on the willows and the words always tell you what's going on. But so we had the green ones for Wales and we had the purple banners they would just turn around as part of the scene and give us purple with a kind of wonderful formal motif for Rome, so that when we had the scenes in Rome, the banners were turned around to purple as part of the action.
We live in probably the largest county in Wales, with just 120,000 people. So there are more sheep than people in this part of the country. So there aren't a lot of people to be in our plays, and not a lot of people to come and see them either. But we have quite a wide range of types of people in the shows, and this is no exception. So we have one or two people who are actually trained to be actors or to be involved in the theatre, and other people who perhaps it's the first time they've been in a show. So from that point of view, it's quite a variety, which is fantastic and very exciting, actually.
We're so supported by the imagination and skills of a team of volunteer supporters who take things to their hearts and rush off and do things like, for example, Cloten's Head, which was just made by the same guy who made the Carnix, actually. He just said, I'm going to make the head, and he did it all. And we had a great debate about the quality of the hair and how you'd be able to hold the hair and all. But it's all done with the greatest of humour and skill. And then one of the volunteer actors, of course, came up in the last scene, who is the under 16 at the time breakdance champion of Great Britain, and who just played Jupiter for us.
It's rather difficult talking about how we do it and why we do it and things like that, partly because of the origins of Shakespeare Link itself. Shakespeare Link, we hope, suggests, and in the early days was certainly founder member of a sort of theatre which was the result of getting together and seeing what happens, rather than somebody in charge saying, this is what you do. We feel that this is what you do is a bit too strict for us, and limiting too, yes. So what we try to do is open up and allow people to find it for themselves within certain parameters, of course, that have to be maintained. But it's not us saying to people, this is it. It's allowing the growing to happen.
Yeah, but sometimes, Phil, I'm really fierce. If people start doing things I think don't work, then, there's no way. That's not allowed. But if you give people freedom and they bring all their own things to it, then something magical, it almost always happens. And you just then, our job is to kind of carry that magic forward. But the thing about Shakespeare, and we haven't even mentioned climate change, which is something important, which is what the whole project is about. Finding the truths of the moment. I guess that's what we've always tried to do, is to allow the moment to inform the Shakespeare.
If you leave the space, your present problems will be part of it, won't they?
Yes. Yes, they are. That's it. That's it. You just leave people freedom, or leave the words of freedom to pick up the right thing that's for the moment. And sometimes different things are important. And I think Cymbeline was an extraordinary piece of work to choose for these times, with all the clashes and difficulties, and personal and tribal and communication and everything.
It's so interesting. The space is two things, really. It's an enclosed space, but it's also open above, of course, but open. You can hear, you see the birds come over. We've got kites that are nesting just behind the stage, and they fly over now and then, the kites do. And they were practically, there were no kites at all, were there, in Britain? Somebody brought some eggs in his pocket from Spain, and these Spanish kites were coming up, and now we've been sending kites to Spain.
I know, that's good, isn't it? But you know, it's not just the birds, but we've got the dogs barking, and we've got the weather always to be aware of. We've got little things like when Yakima was coming out of his trunk or getting into his trunk, and there was a wasp who was absolutely determined to get in with him. And then there's a bee buzzing on a microphone. If you're in the bit, we see the whole film, you'll hear at one point you'll hear a bee buzzing on the microphone. There was one scene in which there were boy racers absolutely hurling up the road just the other side of the hill, so that there was a hell of a row going on. There's nothing you could do about it because it's not a theatre, so you're not protected from all that. It's just a space where we can hold that magical energy. What the whole CNA project, which Randall devised and has spearheaded so skillfully and so carefully, is this whole awareness of how Shakespeare is an amazing bridge, and the words and the language and the concepts that are within his great body of work simply do connect people. It's a medium for connection and debate, which is our kind of, what do you call it? It's what we really believe in, our mission statement.
And I think it's easier to do that in a strange way in an open-air theatre, because the world is here, you're in the world. If you go into a closed theatre, you leave the world behind, outside.
Yes, that's true.
Outside the doors close, and then all the light and the sound, everything has been devised for the security, actually, of the play. Whereas we don't have that security here. And if an aeroplane comes over, then there weren't many aeroplanes, were there, in Shakespeare's time? So something's coming over now, or by.
So we were very, very conscious when we were editing these clips, but also when we were editing the whole film, about the audience being in shot. We felt that if we'd done a film, we wouldn't have had the audience. We just focused on the stage and the actors. But because of this kind of symbiotic nature of the audience and the cast, and we all feel one, and so our casts always work better when the audience is there, and so we really had no alternative but just to do a live performance, and that's why you see quite a lot at the front row.
So there we are, and Randall, we have to say huge thank you to you for everything you've done to make this project work. I'm sorry we can't be with you. It's such a shame, but there we are. We're so looking forward to seeing everybody else's versions of the play. Well done, everybody, well done. And see you all here one day, we hope. Bye.
Yeah, I can see you. I can see half of us. I can see some wonderful costumes behind you.
Yes, absolutely.
But I can't hear you terribly well.
Okay.
Where's your microphone?
Can you hear me better here?
Yes, that's better.
From here?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, good. Thank you so much for that wonderful view of your performance. What a splendid, touching, beautiful show that was. And I loved your commentary on the show too. It gave us such great insights into how you work and how you approach this production. Can you hear me? No, I have to speak here. Right. Sorry. Thank you again for a beautiful, touching, lovely show. And it's so wonderful to connect with you live. I'm so sorry that we cannot have you here in person, but I'm so glad that you're joining us today and negotiating the difficulties of Zoom and sound and some other technical things here. Your show, I love the way you directed us to the beautiful intimacy of your show and the green ethos of your show in both a real, tangible way, that gorgeous Willow Globe Theatre surrounded by green, punctuated by these brilliant flashes of color in your production. When the scene in Act 4, Scene 2, when Lucius comes in with his Roman soldiers, and suddenly in the green there is this scarlet burst of color. And those punctuations were wonderful. I also love the way that, and you observed this yourselves, that there's this tremendous intimacy and connection between the actors and the audience, and therefore your Willow Globe is a bit of a sanctuary in a way, but it's also, as you observed, Phil, it's very open to the world, and inclusive in a way that goes beyond just the human to the non-human, the birds, the insects, the trees, even as we were watching the show. So, bravo, well done. I'm so grateful for your contribution to this project. I want to thank you, both of you, but also all of your beautiful community of actors and supporters. You've obviously got such an inspired group of people who work there. This is the time now for comments and perhaps questions from the audience here in person or online. Are there any comments or questions? Yes, you've got one here. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very, very much. Fascinating material. I just wanted to ask you, because you have the great good fortune of actually being located in Wales, and I think that for many of us, when we were looking to the Anthropocene resonance of this play, we kept focusing on the place of Wales, you know, an imaginative construct for us. And I just wondered if you might be able to say more about what was it like to be in Wales and do the Welsh scenes and really think about the Anthropocene today in your own community, in this rural place in the middle of Wales, which is so important to this play and its Anthropocene both in Shakespeare's time and in our own.
The thing is that we are very aware, I think, when we are doing stuff in the theatre, how close we are to nature and how fortunate we are that it kind of infuses everything we do. And so it's had the whole project had a huge resonance for us. I mean, several of the casts had never been to Milford Haven, for example, even though it's only 70, 80 miles down the road. But it's a small country and people don't get about that much unless they've got a festival to go to or something like that. I think we were all very aware of being in the place that it was written, and that seemed, well, written about. Because for Shakespeare writing then, there's no evidence that he would have ever been to Milford Haven. It seemed like a perfectly faraway place, although there is a big argument that he had a Welsh granny, and some of the words that he uses not necessarily in this play, but they have a Welsh root to them, his vocabulary, which they say came from his granny. But I think we were just very aware that we were in Wales, and that was a fortune.
I think it's an imaginative place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I don't think many of his audience in London would have been to Wales. It's a rather...
But it had one of the best natural harbours, though.
Yes, that's
so
true.
Milford Haven is a fantastic natural harbour.
That's true.
And would have been where the Roman armies would have landed, and where indeed the Tudors had just landed. Henry
Yes,
had
that's
just
true.
they'd landed there. So people knew about it as this mythically wonderful, strong place, which was a real link to the continent. But a lot of people wouldn't have been there. But for us, it had obviously a resonance rehearsing. But I have to confess that due to the time lag, I don't know if you can hear us, but when we were watching ourselves, we really couldn't hear very much. So we don't know if we made any sense in our talk. We could hear lines in the show which we recognised, but He may have talked absolute rubbish, I'm afraid, and apologies if so. Oh, good.
Thank you. Another question from the audience here.
Thank you once again for your tireless work and with your company and for sharing it with us and with the world. We very much appreciate it. I have a question about your actor participants that come from, as you said, all walks of life to join you in your company. And I was wondering what their experiences were like specifically with the text of Cymbeline, which of course, as you noted, is very complicated. There's plot threads going everywhere. How did your actor participants enjoy working with a text like this?
We actually had a whole year to work on it, didn't we? Because we were going to play it the year before last.
Yeah.
And then because of COVID, we couldn't. So they had a lot of time to get used to it. But this cast is a cast which does a Shakespeare play every year and has done for the last...
Yeah, with us for 10, 15 years. We've had a community play ever since we planted the theatre back in 2006. We've done a play every spring, really, running from April through to June, with a community cast entirely drawn locally. And they've got very used to using the language.
They'll play perhaps 3 performances at the theatre, and then if we can get a tour together, we do. And the rest of the summer, we have shows coming in to the theatre, professional shows those are.
But also, I'm a ruthless cutter. I cut out stuff that I don't think is going to work, jokes that are absolutely no use at all and don't make sense, and complicated text that just doesn't really add to anything. And we work very, very carefully with them in rehearsal so that they really understand what they're saying. So then that's it, really.
Very good question.
Very good question. How do you find working with your guys?
Oh, we had a tremendous time putting it together, and I think the time when we were doing it was most important as well. Sort of a time to come together, to be resilient, to have something creative to do, especially when we were working on our project.
Yes, yes.
Mm. Yeah, and people had such fun. They wouldn't normally have had as much time as they did, just practically putting things together, you know, making Cloten's head and the carnix. We did a lot of research on the carnix and all those things, which you knew nothing about before. So from that point of view, it was a very rich time.
Of your company and your creativity comes through very, very clearly in your production, and it's joyful and lovely. Are there any other questions or comments, either here or from people zooming in?
How many people are with you?
I've got we are a rather intimate group, like the Willow Globe Theatre here. We are about a dozen people overall.
Great.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And how many online?
And how many online? We've got a current
2.
of about a dozen as well.
About a dozen. Very good.
And this session, like all the sessions, like the entire event, will be recorded and then available afterwards for people to watch on our YouTube channel, and it'll be there forever. and I know there are many people who have told me, well, this is July, it's a difficult time, I'm not there, you know, and so they want to see the event afterwards. So that will certainly be there available. If there's no other questions at the moment, I've got a small one, a focused question. About, she came to the fore especially in that scene, Act 4, Scene 2 with Lucius, when the Roman soldiers come in to rescue, in some ways, Fidel. And there was an older woman dressed in rustic clothes, and she appeared there, kind of at the side of the stage, and she was there often in many of the other scenes. She didn't have a speaking part, but she was observing very keenly. And I was curious as to who that character is. I realize you've added nonverbal speaking parts to give partners and other people to the characters, the actual speaking characters. But I just wondered, that woman in particular, she was holding at the very end, she was holding a book or a tablet or something like that. I wonder if you could...
That's it, Randall, you've got it. She was holding the tablet, and the tablet had the prophecy on it. The Jupiter had given her the prophecy. She was the soothsayer, and we only cut her out because you were so fierce with how much time we could have. Otherwise, we'd have had her reading it. But she arrives, of course, with Lucius and the army, and she gives them their fortunate blessing for them being success to the Roman host. So that's who it is.
Yes.
And she happens to be the girlfriend of the guy who's playing Lucius. So that's how we cast her. It all ties in.
Noticed a certain, connection between the two of them. That's another reason why I asked. That was a very clever way.
It's also how we run the rehearsals. Because if somebody can do, say, a Tuesday night and a Wednesday night, and they're married to somebody else who's in the play, then we make sure they're both in the same scene. Because it saves car drives.
The practicalities of being in rural Wales and
yes, that's right.
in the theatre.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other
Yes, we were sorry,
Yes, sorry.
because she did do that wonderful prophecy of how everything was going to be all right really well, but there just wasn't the time, you know. We wanted to see Jupiter doing his breakdancing. That was the thing. So that was the focus.
Well, that's a cue to remind people watching and listening that your entire performance is available on our YouTube channel. And of course, this gives us a wonderful hint as to why one would want to watch the entire performance, because it's absolutely delightful. So that is available there, and we can see these aspects of the play that you had to cut out just to fit into our time format this morning. The full production is there, and I hope people will watch it. I certainly look forward to going back over it, because it's a very rich production. It's simple and direct in some ways, and has this extraordinary intimacy. But there is a tremendous amount going on in your production that you've thought through and worked into the production. Some really beautiful and loving, I will use that word, loving details in the production, and that I think speaks to the spirit of your company and the tremendous energy that you've put into it. Again, thank you very much. So one last call for comments and or questions from either here or online. And maybe also I should add, if after this, if you have the spirit of the stairs, as the French call it, if you have a comment or a question after this, you can always write it in at our website. There's a commentary section on our website, and so we can receive questions there and comments there. So this is an ongoing process in some ways, beyond this live event.
Thank you.
Well, thank
you.
you.
We'll others of things, because we haven't thought, there's so much going on, and we organised our questions very well. But we're not being able really to see the screen very well, or indeed hear it terribly well. We feel a bit behindhand in our thinking, sorry to say.
Very visible here, and you've been very present with us, even though you're not present in person. And I want to thank you again for joining us today, and above all, of course, for your absolutely lovely production. And I feel so touched by your contribution and that of both you and your entire community. What a marvelous, marvelous effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, bye for now, and I know you're in the middle of your season, and that's one of the reasons you couldn't come here in person, but I hope you'll be able to watch a bit more of the event as it unrolls.
Yeah, We very much intend to. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye for
Bye.
now. Well, we filled our hour that time very nicely with clips, with a lovely presentation, and some comments and discussion. We've just gone past the hour, but we're now scheduled to have a coffee break here. So we'll take that break, and we'll join you in about another 25 minutes or so for our next session. So hang on for that, please. See you then.
Hello and welcome back. Can everyone in the theater hear me well enough? Yes, awesome. Excellent. So we're back with our second session. Thanks to everyone who's listening in, both online and in person. I'm Rebecca Salazar, for those who missed the introductions. I'm the researcher for Cymbeline in the Anthropocene, and I'll be introducing our next theater. Founded in 2017, Shakespeare in Yosemite offers free outdoor site-specific adaptations of Shakespeare's productions every April for visitors to Yosemite National Park in California, a collaboration between the National Park Service rangers and the community around the University of California, Merced, and led by Catherine Steele Brokaw and Paul Prescott. Today, we'll be having Katie, Paul, and their production manager, Billy Wolfgang, presenting on their film adaptation of Cymbelline, Imogen in the Wild. So a quick round of bios here. Billy Wolfgang is a community-based theater practitioner and an adjunct professor at Stevenson University. During his time as a special researcher for the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, he completed the first major study of community-based Shakespeare performance in the United States. These findings were published in part in a recent article in the Shakespeare Bulletin entitled Grassroots Shakespeare, I Love Shakespeare and I Live Here. He produced 27 Shakespeare plays with the Orange Mite Shakespeare Company as the founding executive director, and directed and managed productions with Merced Shakespeare Fest and Shakespeare in Yosemite. Dr. Wolfgang's research interests include community-based arts, Shakespeare in bilingual performance, and ecodramaturgy. Catherine Steele Brokaw is an associate professor of English at the University of California, Merced, where she teaches and researches Shakespeare, medieval and early modern drama, eco-theater, and practice-based performance research as well. She is co-founder, co-producer, and co-director of Shakespeare in Yosemite and of the Earth Shakes Alliance, which you can read more about online, which brings together eco-minded theaters from around the world. She is currently finishing a book called Shakespeare and Community Performance. Finally, Paul Prescott is a professor of English and theater at the University of California, Merced. He has acted, adapted, and taught Shakespeare in a range of countries and contexts from Cuba to Australia. His books include the Arden Performance Edition of Othello in 2018, Reviewing Shakespeare from Cambridge in 2013, and as co-editor, Shakespeare on European Festival Stages from Arden in 2022. He's the co-founder of the annual festival Shakespeare in Yosemite National Park, California, and has adapted many of Shakespeare's plays for a range of professional companies, including the National Theatre of Great Britain. So thank you and welcome to the Shakespeare and Yosemite cast and crew. I believe at this point we cut to the videos.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel.
This story happened a long time ago. This story never happened. This story is happening now.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child alone.
ways from home.
Once there was a town and a young mayor named Cymbelline. The town was very near the wild. For thousands of years, people had cared for the wild, living in balance with it. The people of the town understood that they benefited from the wild. They knew they needed it to survive. But not all of them knew how to live in balance with it. There was also a city. Some people in the city wanted to benefit from the wild, but knew even less about what the wild needed to survive.
Ways from home.
Mayor Cymbelline had 2 children before his wife died in childbirth. His wife died giving birth to a daughter. Her name was Imogen. At the same time Imogen was born and her mother died, a man who worked in the fields around the town got very sick. He died because of the poison sprayed onto the field where he worked. His widow and his baby son were left behind, but tragedy struck again. The young boy became an orphan.
From home, a long way.
Meanwhile, Mayor Cymbeline was overwhelmed. He quickly remarried. His new wife, Queenie, had a son of her own. She also had a hard heart and a poisoned, polluted soul.
Queenie had promised to look after Cymbelline's children as well as her own son, but she did not. I knew the family back then. I was worried sick about those boys. I took those boys out into the wild. The newspapers reported them missing, presumed dead. For their safety, I kept it that way.
Sometimes I feel.
Grieving the loss of 2 of his 3 children, Mayor Cymbelline adopted a little boy who had been orphaned in the fire. His name was Leonatus, simply called Leo. Imogen and Leo became the best of friends and often went with their dad to the wild to play. But his new wife, Queenie, was not pleased, and her son Cloten grew into a jealous boy. That's all you need to know about the past.
Welcome to the present. Let's go.
Drop the deal! Drop the deal! Drop the deal! Drop the deal! Drop the deal!
Be assured you will not find me, daughter, after the slander of most stepmothers. And as for you, Leonatus,
I will from hence today.
the mayor, your father, has charged you should not speak together.
I simply fear my father's wrath. Nothing his rage can do on me. He must go.
Do not weep. I'll remain the loyalist husband that ever pledged truth. My residence will be at the city, at Poniacromos. He's promised to look after me. Write me, with mine eyes, which bring the words you say.
Be brief, I pray you.
Adieu.
Nay! Stay a little. Look here, love. This diamond was my mother's. Take it, heart.
Remain. Remain while sense can keep it. And for my sake, sweetest, fairest, take this. It's a manacle of love.
When shall it see each other?
You basest thing, be gone from my sight! Away! You poison to my blood.
I am gone.
It cannot be a pinch in death more sharp than this.
Sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have an ungrateful child.
I am senseless of your wrath.
You might have had the sole son of my queenie.
Bless that I might not. I chose an eagle, and thereby did avoid a vulture.
Oh, you vile one.
Father, it is your fault that I love Leo. You bred him as my playfellow, and he is a man worth any woman.
What? Are you mad?
Dear daughter, peace.
Leave us to ourselves.
Nay, let her languish, and being aged, die of this folly. Lock her up.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home.
Not some half hour hence, dear Bassanio. I pray you, speak with me. You shall at least go see my Leo leave.
Of course.
Sir, I would advise you shift your shirt. What? The violence of action hath made you reek.
Have I hurt him?
Only his patience.
Hurt him? His body is a passable carcass.
That she should love this Leo and refuse me.
As I tell you always, her beauty and her brain go not together.
Come, out of my chamber. Would there have been some hurt done?
I wish not so. That such a crafty devil as is his mother should wield the world this ass.
Poor Imogen.
Heaven hold firm that she may stand to enjoy her banished Leo, and this great land.
I'm near the place where they should meet. How fit his garments suit me. Why should his wife not fit me too? Leo, the head that is now growing upon your shoulders shall within this hour be off, and your wife seduced. I will find you out here, and when I do,
My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine. I'll shiver the whole night through.
Life is sweet someday. Are not these woods more free from danger than the perilous town?
sweet are the uses of adversity. Our life finds tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons and stones, and good in everything. I would not change it.
I reckon a bear got him.
They're more dangerous to bears than they to us. This man died of a fall. And then this is the work of another man. That beast may prey on the dead.
Where's the rest of it?
Missing?
The law protects not us. He must have friends close by. For now, let us bury him.
The furred moss shall winter down his corpse. With wild wood, leaves, and weeds will strew his grave.
Let's bury him with a lullaby.
Fear no more the heat of the sun.
I hope. I dream. Oh, Leonatus, alas, where's your head? Where is it? Where is it?
Fear no more the heat of the sun, or the furious winter's rages. Your worldly task is done, home has gone now, your age is frozen into none. Golden, lone, and past the reign of darkness, those shadows nearly broke you. Here this land will warm and cloak you. Fire sweep and burn through the wind. Chimney smoke fills our skies. Bells toll, hands fold, waiting to turn and melt back to earth. How you used to cry at the sound of thunder, taking the tune of a childless mother. Though joy has passed, the memory will last. All lovers young, all lovers must rest your eyes and dry your tears. The sun takes its rest, as you should hear. Simply consign to my lullaby and fear no more this life.
The dream's here still. Even when I wake, it is without me as within me. Not imagined, felt.
A headless man? The garments of Leo?
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.
While I remember her and her virtues, I can't forget my blemishes in them. To think of the wrong I did myself, which was so much that it destroyed the sweetest companion that ever man bred his hopes out of. Is it enough that I am sorry?
Cuando uno sesno de sí mismo ignoto, sin buscar encuentre y sea abrazado por un soplo de aire delicado, y cuando de la real secoya las ramas caídas, muertas por tantos años, tras revivir, se unan al viejo tronco, entonces el pueblo será afortunado y florecerá en paz y abundancia.
Singer writers and poets, we must use our words. It'll take our best, but this we must do. Creatures cry out, we need you.
Whom best I love, I cross to make my gift. The more delayed, delighted. Take wing and soar, my child. Take wing and soar.
We do our best to save the wild, to save one another. The trees and you and the future child. The earth is our mother. She says we need you now. We need you now.
Your wife has fled.
Why fled she?
If I may, she never loved you. Only aimed at greatness got by you.
She alone knew this.
Your daughter was as a scorpion to her sight. She had eyes only for her son and his advancement.
My eyes were not at fault, for she was beautiful.
Do as the heavens have done. Forget your evil. With them, forgive yourself.
See better. Pardon the protesters.
We need you now.
This one thing only I will entreat.
Name it.
There is a young woman in there. Let her be bailed.
Bring her out. Bring them all out. Make your demand aloud.
Our demand is that the deal be dropped.
That deal is dead. From now on, only deals that help us all.
And my demand is that this gentleman may confess of whom he had that ring. That diamond upon your finger, how came it to be yours?
The heaviness and guilt within my heart takes off my manhood. By villainy, I got this ring. It was Leonata's jewel, whom you banished. I wagered with him $100,000 against this diamond to take his place in bed and win this ring by Imogen's and my adultery. I returned with proof enough, some marks of secret about her body, that he could not but think her bond of chastity quite cracked.
Fool, most credulous fool! My life, my wife, Imogen.
What means this?
I've killed your daughter.
Does the world go round?
Why did you throw your wedded lady from you?
Hang there like fruit, my soul till the tree die.
My flesh, my child. If you have poison for me, I will drink it. I know you cannot love me.
This is our chance to redeem all sorrows.
Sir! Let me in the story. Your stepson clone is dead.
God forfend. But you, by your own tongue, you are implicated in this and must submit to questioning.
Wait, Cymbeline.
I have seen you before. Your face is familiar to me.
My name is Belarius. And these two youngsters? These two youngsters, they are yours.
How my children? My boys?
As sure as you are your mother's son, seeing their neglect, I rescued these children, and these 20 years have I brought them up. Here they are again, and I must lose the two sweetest companions in this world.
I am mother to the birth of 3. No mother rejoiced of deliverance more.
My brothers.
Did you ever meet?
Why, yes, sir.
And at first meeting, loved. Continued so until she left us.
Kneel not to me. The power that I have on you is to forgive you. Live and deal with others better.
Nobly said. We'll learn our freeness of our son-in-law. Pardon is a word to all.
I would we were all of one mind, and one mind good.
We do our best to save the wild, to save one another. The trees and you and the future child, the earth is our mother. She says, we need you now, we need you now. We need you now, we need you now.
All right. Should I speak? Am I good to speak? Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, Billy? Can I get a thumbs up from Billy just to make sure I'm... Yes, okay, great. Okay, so the big context really for Image in the Wild and a lot of the work we do is environmental justice, which is the idea that climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss disproportionately affect the people who are least responsible for creating these ecological catastrophes. So, where Paul and I teach, and Billy was also teaching when we did this film at the University of California, Merced, this kind of environmental injustice is keenly felt. Our campus is in California's San Joaquin Valley, which is plagued with the United States' worst air quality and extreme heat. It was 108 here yesterday, but it's also within a 2-hour drive of Yosemite National Park. So as scholars and teachers and theater artists who are embedded in this public institution, this University of California, in the heart of the San Joaquin Valley, 2 hours from a beloved national park that's repeatedly shut down due to fire and flood. And I don't know if you've been following the heartbreaking Washburn fire that's burning right now. It looks like the Mariposa Grove of sequoias will be saved, but 20% of the sequoias have been lost. These 3,000-year-old trees have been lost in the last 2 years. So how do we focus our work, our Shakespeare on these questions of environmental justice? So what we try to do is to work with students, with community members, and with park rangers to create our production. So Imogen was filmed over 6 days, which was crazy, in spring 2021. And the adaptation is very much focused on those issues. So Billy and Paul and I are each going to talk about a different section of that, and then we'll open it up. So I'll turn it over to, I think, Billy, or to Paul, sorry.
Yep. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello. Greetings from...
Can't hear you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm unmuted, it tells me, so no? All right. Okay. I'll just plow on. All right. Hello, everyone. Congratulations from all of us, Shakespeare Yosemite, to Randall and Rebecca and all our fellow companies around the world. Astonishing to share in this festival of new work, really. New work based on a very old work. So I just want to say a few things about the opening section. I mean, hopefully on some level it speaks for itself. We all hope that our work speaks for itself, don't we? But you'll have noticed that wasn't quite what Shakespeare wrote. And we knew in making this film, which, by the way, none of us had any experience of making films before. All three of us knew what it is to try and put live theatre in front of people, and site-specific theatre at that, community-based theatre. But making a kind of community-based, site-specific film was not a line on our CVs at that point. And so we learned very much on the job. So the opening section will have hopefully announced our kind of tactics of making this very old play speak to the era of the Anthropocene. And Sue disarmingly said a bit earlier that she was a ruthless cutter. Well, I mean, we took the ruthlessness to turned it up right to 11 with this script. We needed to lose probably, I don't know, Katie, I mean, maybe 60% of the text just went in a first cut, maybe more, maybe about 70, which we all know is fun, isn't it? Right? Just getting rid of words to tell the story you want to tell. So we're very ruthless about that. And of course, you'll see we had a concept, we had a reframing concept. So the job of the opening few minutes of the film was to put obviously the audience members into that world, to announce the concept, to reframe the dynamics of the text into a parable. I think we were all quite pleased with the opening lines about, this is a story that never happened, this is a story that's happening right now, kind of thing. So that's what Cymbeline feels like. It's infinitely improbable as a story, and yet it seems to have a valency and a cut through that we can employ to our own ends. So you'll have noticed that we thoroughly kind of democratize the text. It's not about queens and princes and princesses and Roman invaders or what have you. It's about in a sense a quite quotidian struggle between, let's hopefully call it late capitalism, and the needs of the community. And of course we wanted to do that in the Central Valley. We wanted to be a story about the Central Valley today. And by making it a story about the Central Valley today, it was a story hopefully about Central Valleys all over the world at any point. So I'm always, when I think about the beginning of this play, I'm reminded that George Bernard Shaw took great pains to refinish Cymbeline. He thought the last act was just so horrendously baggy and overloaded that he wrote his Cymbeline refinished. Well, I think we felt that if ever a play was in need of restarting, this was this play. It's one of the most improvable beginnings of a Shakespeare play. And I think what the Willow Globe did was very, very sensible in terms of that kind of illustrative storytelling. You have the characters on stage, you show people who they are. But that wouldn't, that wouldn't translate to film, of course, at all. So we restarted the play. We gave it a hard restart. Certain things will crop out. I mean, the importance of music is signaled straight away. Music is very central to every one of our productions. It's consistently the thing that audiences talk about, which is very interesting, because perhaps in the Shakespeare business, we some people might be like to think that the words are important, and of course they are, but what hits people effectively very often is music. And so we begin the whole film with the motherless child, which becomes a leitmotif. And even in those 3 clips, you'll have heard musical leitmotifs happening again and again. And in a way, I suppose that was our way of imposing a kind of pattern on what is otherwise quite an anarchic play. So to give people moments where they I know this tune, I know what this tune signals. A motherless child for us was a kind of a highly symbolic song in a number of fashions. I mean, there's so many orphans in this play, or people who think they're orphaned. But it also, in a sense, of course, it's reaching out to the idea of Mother Earth, and we are, increasingly an orphaned kind of generation in the way that natural resources are being taken away from us, and we experience that as a kind of bereavement. You'll have also noticed that we're highly promiscuous and have no problem introducing lines from King Lear or As You Like It, if it helps. Many other texts are plundered in the course of this film. So I think, and the final thing is that as very amateur filmmakers, although we did have a professional cinematographer, Sean Overton, whose work, really demands respect here, and a number of brilliant student editors. But Billy and Katie and I, as amateur filmmakers, there's always things you want to do that you can't do. And one of the visions for that end of that opening sequence was to kind of have a snatch of thousands of images very quickly to recap what we'd just done, in the style of the end of Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, the brilliant prologue to his film. But then we realized we had a $60 budget, so couldn't do that. But we did what we could do within the confines of COVID, within the confines of our own adequacy, and watching it back, kind of a tinge of pride that people managed to pull it off. And I should say as well, it was much more Katie and Billy, because I was stuck here because of COVID. So big props to my fellow collaborators. So that's all I'll say about the opening. Someone like to pick up on the middle section, the death of Cloten.
Thanks so much, Paul. And to kind of piggyback off of what Paul was just saying about feeling and how critical music is to the productions that we do at Shakespeare in Yosemite, it goes directly into this middle sequence that I want to talk about. This is the sequence with Cloten in the tree. He's filming that. He's out on his quest to hunt down Leo, and then enact his sinister plot to vanquish him and kill him and do all of these other horrible things, and then get Imogen. On our way there, I would like to focus on something that Imogen says. The dream's here still, even when I wake. It is without me as within me, not imagined, felt. And that's really what we wanted to do. We wanted to feel, and that whole middle sequence, we feel it with the music, we feel it with just the look on their faces that we don't often get to really get up there. Our cameramen were not afraid to get the camera right in there and to feel those moments, along with the beautiful scores written by our musicians. And they spent so much time. We truly had just a fantastic team, and they were so willing to take risks and sort of bend the rules. No one is concerned with what should we be doing here, what should we be doing here. Everyone's just out there giving it a go. And most of these artists are undergrads, most of them. And we feel it. And that's the big thing I would like to take away from this middle section as well. But regarding our dramaturgy and how we went about cutting, as Paul noted, we did a lot of that, and as you saw that, really a key takeaway is we rooted Cloten's demise in his obvious ignorant and sort of sinister folly that he has, and his disregard and contempt for what we call the wild, our sort of our allegorical, as you see, we do we have the wild, the town, the city, and he and his mother, Queenie, have a general ignorance, but it's beyond ignorance. It's contempt. He sort of runs into the wild, climbs the tree. He thinks he can go in there and do whatever he pleases. And of course, that is his rather comical downfall. And then you will hear some of the, when Guiderius brings the body back in, we find, we had some debate about this actually, if you remember, Katie and Paul, about how we wanted to handle where his head went. Was it appropriate to have a bear? Was it Winter's Tale? Shall we import a bear? And we decided that our objective is not to teach people to fear nature, because it's so we put a line in there from Belarius that we are more dangerous to bears than they are to us. And that is inserted there as well. So it was Cloten's own ignorance and contempt that led him down his frightful fall from that tree. And then a mountain lion does get his head, if you were wondering, if you didn't catch that. So we still have that same plot point there in the center of our film as well. But you will note, Imogen doesn't have a potion. There was no way that we felt that we could tell a story set in the place that we set this, which obviously is a modern city, a modern town, speaking about issues today, as both Katie and Paul already spoke to. So having both of the sons and Belarius having her take a potion and then being buried beside Cloten would just wouldn't match up with our world and our story. So that had to go. So as we went through and we navigated this world, if we cut the potion here, then how does it affect later? How does this? And so in that middle sequence, we see a lot of those ramifications when you remove one element, having to go back and make sure it's gone from there and make sure it's gone from the end as well. So that's something that we really needed to consider. And lastly, as Imogen runs away from this scene and goes back into the wild that she has known her whole life and loved, we see her reflect. We see those flashbacks of her with Leo, and we feel like we're part of her dream. We feel like we're part of that speech that she says at that moment. And that gets back to what I was saying initially, feeling. We feel that, and so we see that, we show it, and we're not telling it as is done traditionally with that speech in the theater. And when she finally meets, part of the dreamscape is the fact that the ranger keeps showing her where to go. She knows the way to go. And that's sort of that confidence that she has with her, knowing the wild so well, being at peace and in harmony with it, that she has sort of these visions, and she knows the way to get to help. And she does find the rangers, which of course stand in for our for the Romans who would find her in Shakespeare's original script. So lastly, the middle scene is really a sort of the dreamscape sequence that we capture. And I believe our musicians, and I know our actors, actually the whole group, captured that so effectively, and I'm very proud of them. So I'll turn it over to Katie.
Okay, so thank you. So before I talk about the final scene, I do just want to do a few sort of shout outs and things. So Billy and Paul and I co-adapted this, and Billy and I were on set. Billy was amazing as production manager as well as co-director, getting everybody where they needed to be. Sean Overton was our cinematographer, so he sort of basically knew kind of what he was doing around a camera. He hadn't made a film this complex before, but this would not have been possible without him. And he led a team of 3 amazing film editors who were then students in my Shakespeare class. So Will Darpinian, Brandon Cooper, and Riley Hawk, who did an incredible amount of work. And shout out especially to Will, who I know is watching right now, who, if anybody's the patron saint of this project, it's Will. He did so much film editing and all the sound editing, and really worked for months on this. Just creatively, our songwriters, so we had a student songwriting team. So Tonatiuh Newbold, who also played Leo, wrote his ballad Manacle of Love, which is gorgeous. Kat Flores, you heard her singing We Need You and Motherless Child. She wrote We Need You, and then she also wrote Earth's Cry, which occurs earlier in the film. And Rena Johnson, who wrote and sang that gorgeous Fear No More. And I just want to thank Randall and Rebecca for their leadership on this project. It really changed lives. You two talked to Sophia, and I just love that interview. And she speaks really eloquently about how being cast as Imogen turned her world upside down, and really changed her sense of self. And it did. This was actually her first acting role, like not first Shakespeare, not first film, not first lead, first acting role, was playing Imogen in this thing that was filmed in the pandemic in 6 days. And she's gone on to do more theater in the last year. It opened up worlds of possibility for Will and Brandon and Riley, our film editors, and everybody who worked. We had a 40-person team of mainly students working behind the scenes. And it really brought much needed connection and creativity. Billy kind of spoke to this in the last session. During a time, this was 2021, this was the time when we had been, a lot of people had been isolating for a year, and our students had been in online school for the whole year. I remember what it was like to assemble on set. A lot of people, we all tested and went through all these protocols. A lot of people hadn't hugged someone in a year. I remember seeing Connie, who played Queenie, and Dennis, who played Cymbeline, so two wonderful local actors, when they saw each other, and they've done a lot of theater together, and they just hugged and started crying. And that was really how a lot of us felt throughout this process, that it was just such a gift. And the focus of the project, feeling like we were part of an international movement, everyone knew that this was part of Cymbeline and the Anthropocene, and that felt important. And knowing that we were sharing this with the world, right, just felt really important to people, and people took that really seriously. So I just want to thank Rebecca and Randall for all of their work and leadership the last few years. It's changed lives. Okay, so just about the final bit that you saw. So Imogen in the Wild tries to highlight how capitalistic and political greed have long combined with misogyny and racism to destroy lands and plants and animals and human lives. So we have an interpolated ranger scene. So the rangers are like totally good guys in our film, and they're kind of the Romans, but not really. And in that scene, Emily Dehoff, who herself is a member of the South Sierra Miwok tribe that are indigenous to Yosemite, she speaks an extra Shakespearean line about the histories of those who have been here the longest, meeting with those who would use the land for their own dark purposes. So we really try to have that as a through line throughout the film, this idea of the exploitation of the land and who it hurts the most. But in the end, we wanted to convey that people can perhaps change their minds and hearts and even forgive. That is, after all, the spirit of Cymbeline and the late plays. And that change comes through love of the natural world, love of community, love of those who we will never meet, those yet to be born. I want to give a shout out. So I'm reading, I know I'm late to this party, but I'm reading Emergent Strategy right now by Adrienne Marie Brown. And it just sort of conveys everything I believe. And I think a lot of what this project is about in terms of thinking about how to restructure a society that's more like an ecosystem and that is based on community and collaboration and love, rather than competition and accumulation and individualism, right? So I just really want to recommend Emergent Strategy to anyone if they haven't read it. In our version of Cymbeline, Giacomo has a change of heart when he enters the wild and he speaks to Ranger Lucia. And so Giacomo in our production is played by Lisa Volpe, a terrific actor, LA-based actor. She founded LA Women's Shakespeare Company in 1993, which was doing all female Shakespeare before it was cool. And she's played more Shakespearean roles than any male Shakespearean roles than any woman in the world, professionally at least. We're so lucky to get to collaborate with her. So she gave us a beautiful Iachimo, and I'm sorry there wasn't more of that, more of her Iachimo in these clips. She played Iachimo as a man, which felt a lot safer in a lot of ways, especially with Sophia, a first-time actor, to do those misogynistic scenes with Lisa rather than someone else. So in that scene later in the film, Iachimo meets with Ranger Lucia, and we sort of, you'll have noticed that we freely import lines from other plays. So this was a sort of variation on the Touchstone Corin scene in As You Like It, where they're talking about the city versus the country. And the combination of being in the wild and talking to Ranger Lucia gives Iachimo a change of heart. And our Ranger Lucia is played by a woman who was then a real live park ranger, Jess Rivas. She's a alumna of UC Merced, and was absolutely speaking from the heart when she talks about what the natural world means to her. So in the end, it's the bravery of the youth activists. So instead of a battle in our film, we have a moment where you sort of see that they're jeeps, that we couldn't get plows, but the sort of plows are starting to move in to destroy the wild, and Leo puts his body on the line, right? He stands in front of these vehicles to try to stop the construction. Billy and I were the security guards, which was a very hilarious day when Billy and I were like trying to be these like badass security guards. And he gets arrested, and there's also these big protests that happen in the wild, that even though they're against her dad, Imogen decides to join, and they all get thrown in jail, right? And also Belarius and Averagus and Guiderius, we see them join as well. So you have this idea that the bravery of the youth activists, that their bravery gets picked up by the television crew. Queenie's betrayal, and in Imogen in the Wild, Queenie is the queen, call her Queenie, is not only all she is in Cymbeline, but she's also sleeping with Iachimo, which was their idea, which was the actor's idea, which totally worked. Like when you have actors as good as our as Lisa Volpe and Connie Stetson, who played our Queenie, like give them as many scenes as possible. So the combination of Queenie's betrayal, the bravery of the activists, and Iachimo's urging culminate in Cymbeline calling off the deal in this final scene. Filmed as if it were a press conference, though the morning that we filmed it, we were told that we couldn't get the podium we'd requested. So like it's whatever you wanted to imagine, this final scene. That was our craziest day of filming. It was really insane. Like I can't believe how good that final scene actually looks, considering what it was like to film it. But the point is that in the end, Iachimo and Leo both feel contrition for their actions. Is it enough that I am sorry? We actually let Iachimo say that line as well when he's watching the protests. Is it enough? It's not, but it's a start. Like everyone in the Anthropocene, the characters in Imogen in the Wild need to live and deal with others better. Okay, so we can turn it over for questions now.
And switch back to me, I think. And I'm here with Billy Wolfgang in person. And first of all, I want to say to all three of you, thank you so much. The thanks is really mine. You thank me, but really, the thanks is 1000% me for this absolutely fantastic achievement of Imogen in the Wild. It is incredible the way you have mobilized community strength and spirit and resources and technical expertise to draw it all together into this film. It is just an amazing project and an amazing achievement. We're being redirected here a little bit for the camera and the sound. And it is also wonderful. Let me just say locally, this is the first time I'm seeing your film on a larger screen, and how brilliant that is, and particularly the cinematic aspects of this film, the use of different film stock. the color moods, all of that is much more visible on a long screen. So I'd encourage you, again, like all of our productions, this is going to be available fully on our YouTube channel. I'd encourage you to, when you watch this, watch it on your home screen, not on just, you know, a little computer screen. You'll see so much more, and you'll appreciate the huge achievement, but also the huge learning curve that went into this. Paul mentioned this in his remarks, and it's extraordinary the way you went from 0 to about 150 in so many months, and to achieve this. The other thing about it, I think, is that that sense of how you've mobilized people comes together in the film, not only in the numbers and the diversity that you've included in this film, but also that strength which comes through really earns the optimism of your ending. The ending of this play is often ridiculed as being, you know, over the top, improbable, and too much. But the optimism here feels to me, and that's absolutely right, this is a feeling film in all the best senses. You feel at the end, yes, this film has really, both in its storylines, but also in its production methods, and what is clearly, since this film was filmed during all of this adversity, it's really earned that optimism. And optimism it's easy to dismiss optimism, but when nearby 300-year-old trees are burning down at this moment, we need that not to fall into complete despair and just give up. So, so congratulations, well done, fantastic achievement, and thank you so much for another wonderful contribution to this project.
Thank you, Randall.
Absolutely brilliant. So, enough of me. Questions and or comments? We have competing questions here.
Hey guys. So good to see you.
Hi, Ken.
Well, hey, first of all, like 6 days, really?
Yeah.
You did that in 6 days?
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's so smart. Really, really, really quite clever. I love the introduction and how that helps the audience, and it really sets the tone for the project that you all have worked on. I guess I'm curious, just because of we operate on a pretty tight rehearsal schedule here, but that film is a whole different medium. I mean, it requires so many other storyboarding. I'm just curious to know more about the process leading up to the 6 days. What kind of pre-production was happening? What were you doing with the actors in terms of getting them familiar with the script? Were they part of the process as well in terms of cutting or adding? What was the lead up like for this?
Do you want to? Okay, yeah.
I'm happy to take that, and Billy and Paul can chime in. So the first part of the process was actually fall 2020. I was teaching a theater or a Shakespeare and ecology senior seminar, and we read Cymbeline, and I had Randall just talked about one of my students' projects, Amber Loper, in that class. In the intro this morning. So they were doing projects with Cymbeline, and that really got the juices flowing to think about, like, what does it mean to set this play in the Anthropocene? And Randall actually came and visited that class. We were all on Zoom, right? And so that sort of started the process. And then sort of over Christmas, Billy and Paul and I worked on the adaptation together, and cast it. So we had rehearsals over Zoom. And then we started, kind of workshopping. We had a rough script, and we started workshopping it with the actors. And they did come in with ideas. And once we knew who we cast, there were things that we tweaked. So the script was very much a living organism until we started filming. There were a few things like the stuff, we had the little kids who are little baby Imogen and Leo. The Deborah Ann that was actually filmed, who sings Motherless Child, who is Imogen's mother, Ghost. She filmed that in Central Park. We had a few things that we filmed outside that 6 days, so we did start working on some of that stuff. Some of the shots in Yosemite we got in advance. But yeah, I think we had 2 days in Merced, 3 days in Yosemite, and then 1 day back in Merced to do the filming. So in the lead up, we were rehearsing on Zoom. Like this was high pandemic time. Like our older cast members had been vaccinated. A few of us had like 1 shot, but it was like, this was early pandemic time. So we had Zoom rehearsals, we had Zoom music meetings. And that's what we did. And we figured it out. And then we would get there on set and we would rehearse it and sort of block it in the space. I remember well when Chase, who played Cloten and is a very experienced actor, taught Sophia how to do a stage slap so that she could slap him as Imogen. And then like 2 minutes later, we were filming it, right? It was happening like that. So it was Zoom rehearsals followed by figuring things out in the moment. And there were lots of things, including that final scene, that because of things like, oh, the light is totally different from what we thought, and Sean, our cinematographer, is like freaking out, and we have to actually film this in a completely different part of campus, because all the town and city scenes are filmed on our campus, which was vacant, that we had to just like sort of completely restage or even kind of reconceptualize the scene in the moment. We also had Angel Nunez, who plays Viragus. He was like the boom operator when he wasn't on stage, and then we had other like random cast members holding the boom mic. It was very much like an all hands on deck, figure it out in the moment process, which was great. And then at the end of every night, we would gather in my backyard for like a 10 p.m. dinner, and then get up at 6 a.m. and do it all the next day. So it was very intense days. Actually just saw so Connie Stetson, who played Queenie, and she's married to Lee Stetson, who played Belarius. And they said that's their only adventure of the last 2.5 years. They've been very cautious, and it's like, we did Imogen in the wild, but that's all we've done. It was a really big deal for a lot of people. So Billion.
The ecological side, in terms of what the audience is able to experience in Yosemite, with all the shots and the journey, and Imogen's journey through the forest. It's touching, it's moving, it's funny, particularly like Cloten falling out of the tree. But really well done.
Yeah, it was very collaborative on site. Like a lot of those ideas, fortunately, we did not have to generate every idea in the show. We had, for example, Chase, who played Cloten. He would come up with things like climbing the tree on the spot. So there was this sort of, while we planned a lot and we were constantly changing those plans as the situation constantly changed, we had a group of people that I think were starved creatively. So we just like released so much creative energy on this project, and you can see and you can feel that and see that when you listen to the music. There's so much soul there. It's all original music. I mean, there's a few songs that are sourced and that are slightly adapted, but most of it is original music written by the participants, by the students, and it was always another creative idea. That being said, it was extremely stressful, but in retrospect, it was really fun. Like I wouldn't trade for anything. Like, it was such an amazing experience, and now to have that product forever, as opposed to, and I was mentioning this the other day, as theater makers, we're used to having sort of an ephemeral product that disappears. We have the memories, and they're quite pleasant, but this venturing into this new medium allows us to continue to enjoy what we love, making theater, as we will continue doing in the future, but also shows us that we can do something else like this. And planning doesn't hurt, but it will change. I mean, we did that in, like Katie said, we were just getting our first vaccine at that exact time. So oof, there was a lot happening. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, I should also say, as we're talking about music and humor and creative ideas, so Chase, who played Cloten, had this idea that for his song that he woos Imogen with, that it was going to be a country music video. So he lives in Georgia, so we actually filmed it in Georgia, and then we got Devon Glover, the Sonnet Man, to do like a bit of a hip hop rap in the middle of it. So if you haven't watched the whole film, or you can also just find just that on YouTube. But that's the funniest moment, is this whole country song that Chase wrote, and it's really cringe. It's pretty great.
Wish you were here with us. Miss you guys. You know, like Randall, I was really struck. You know, I watched this when it premiered nearly a year ago now on my small screen. Loved seeing it on the big screen, and noticing some things in particular that I didn't pick up on as much last time around. And one specific moment I just wanted to comment on and maybe ask about is the backstory where Posthumus's father was a worker on the farmland, and he dies because of the poisoning of the land, and then you transition from the poisoning of the body to the poisoning of Queenie's soul. And then when Posthumus's father comes back again in the dream sequence, and then speaking in Spanish, and I know because of the bilingual work that you've also done, I mean, I just wonder, you know, thinking about Mother Earth and the motherless child, and there's the orphan theme along with the theme of stewardship. And I just wondered if you guys could talk more about that whole creation of the story of Posthumus's father, and how that really was woven together into your storytelling. Because right now in the cut you did, that just came out as a really important piece.
Now I'm trying to remember. I think we did think that was an important like environmental justice piece, because that is such an important context in the Central Valley, that the pesticide exposure of farm workers and the health hazards. And we knew, so Alejandro, who plays the father, was Ricardo, working with Billy and Angel on Ricardo El Segundo. He's from Venezuela, so he's a terrific, so you know, he's Spanish is his first language. So I think we knew that we wanted him, that he was the right person for that. And I think, yeah, so that was we sort of wrote it for him. So it was reverse engineered in that way. Paul might remember more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can just add a quick thought to that, which is, I think it was part of the general project of democratizing the text and indigenizing it, that many of our students are the children of farm workers, right? And so what is a hero in this film? Well, it's a young person who's come from a difficult background, who puts that difficulty and many aspects of their own self-realization, as it were, aside, and fights and struggles. So I think that was part of the logic as well. I mean, you know, as Katie's kind of suggesting, we're going back, as we all are, I think, on this project. You know, we're going back a couple of years sometimes to kind of trying to work out why we did what we did. And as we all know, you know, decisions are made very quickly. But I think that was a conscious one. Now you ask it, Gretchen, and yeah, I wish I was there too. I have very happy memories of that Black Box Theatre and Bozeman General. So yeah, lots of love to you guys there. But yeah, so I think it was partly rooting one of our heroes' stories, because obviously Imogen is the hero of this story. That's why we renamed the film. But our male hero was making him as sociable as possible with so many of our students' experiences, which even if their parents haven't died, they've lived lives that are immiserated, and probably their health chances are far less than they should be in the world's richest country. So I think that's what we were going for with that. But yeah, thank you for picking up on it, Gretchen, and I'm glad it sort of popped out on the big screen in a way that it might not on a laptop.
Yeah, and just to follow up as well, with the poisoning of Queenie's soul, we noticed that sort of the motif. I remember working on this part with you both, and we talked about the motif of poison versus the drug that, and we had to make the choice to cut Dr. Cornelius. But we did discuss that, and there was an earlier concept that involved more of that as well. But if you go through the text, the word poison does show up quite a bit, in at least in our edition.
That's great. That's right. We had this, like, it was going to be Rachel, who's one of the clone lords. She was going to be Cornelia, like a research scientist, right? We were going to try to like film something in a lab, like, because with that time we went to the lab in 2020, like it was inspired by that. But yeah, that ended up on the cutting room floor.
From people joining us on Zoom? Or here in person? Well, if not, I'd like to thank Katie, Paul, and Billy for, first of all, your wonderful work, and second, for a fascinating discussion and question and answer about the film. I've learned more, again, about this wonderful, wonderful film, and you've suggested how many more depths and layers this has, and it bears watching many, many times. So congratulations again, great work, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Rand.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Good to see
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Great to see you.
Thank you for being there, Billy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And Katie and Paul, we should definitely do like a big cinema premiere sometime, because it was super cool to see it on the big screen. Yeah.
It's so true. So I did show it to some students in, and I think we will keep doing that at UC Merced. Total shout out to Will again, who I think is still watching, because the reason it sounds good in a big context is him. Like he figured out how to make it so that it could work in that context. We originally were going to have big premieres both downtown Merced and in Yosemite, but COVID, yeah.
Original plan, but
the plan changes.
The plan changes.
Yep, it keeps changing.
Yeah, but we still so we're making a film of our love. So we did Love Slavers Lost live this past April, but we're also making a film version of it, which was insane, but we are. But so we might have like a film fest or something like to premiere them both. Yeah, cool.
That would be great in happier times. Yeah.
Yes. B5 needs to like subside quite a bit, but
that's it. That's it.
Stay safe, everyone.
Yeah. You too. Lovely to see you. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Paul.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of our second session. Thank you, Rebecca, for your introductions and continuing to negotiate us on Zoom through this whole 3-day event. And we'll now take another break until 1:30 local time, when we'll have our third and final session of the day with Monica Mafia and Cymbelline en la Patagonia. So we'll see you then. Please return and join us. Thanks.
Everybody, I hope you had a good break, and I think I overheard a few really excellent conversations as people were leaving the theater, so I'm glad those are continuing after the first presentations. We move now to our third presentation. One of our most recent performances that took part in Cymbeline and the Anthropocene is Monica Mafia's fiercely anti-colonial and gloriously embodied adaptation, Cymbelline en la Patagonia, which was performed just this April in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Developed collaboratively with her company Cerebos, this adaptation incorporates indigenous Tehuelche cosmology, regional Argentinian dances, and deeply intimate ecological transformations into the story of Cymbeline. Es mi placer presentar la producción de Mónica en nuestra lengua materna compartida, y es un privilegio presentar su trabajo en este proyecto. So, Monica Mafia is a playwright, theater, and opera director born in Buenos Aires. She is a member of the Spanish Academy of the Performing Arts. Her opera libretto, Lilith Black Moon, was commissioned in 2019 and newly produced last year in Madrid. She is now working on her fourth libretto for a Hungarian composer, and her new play, The Anemone and the Boar, just premiered in Uruguay and has been done as a virtual reading at King's College London, as well as at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, England, where Monica has been invited to conduct a workshop this October. So welcome in the Black Box Theatre to Monica.
All your work behind this. Thank you very much, Randall, for inviting me, and Montana State University for having us. Right, because my adaptation, it's an adaptation, and it's in Spanish, and the video is in Spanish. I would say a few words to introduce you to the ideas behind these adaptations, the dramaturgical ideas, and it's crucial in this version. The idea of myth. The fact that in Cymbeline, Jupiter arrives and explains questions about identity to Posthumus, that arose a number of questions which I decided to answer through this adaptation with another myth, which is the Patagonian theogony. And then what is a myth for us is a tale, it's history, it's something invented, something funny or nice or poetic. But for those people in those times, where the Greeks or Romans, they were religion, they are religious truths. So that's what I'm pointing out. Those ideas of the creation of the world and the origin of the stars and the heavens and the earth, etc., and the human being, those were truths for them. So how do they apply and why to Cymbeline? Well, the thing is, Shakespeare mentions Setebos in The Tempest, and Setebos is a Patagonian god, which is not entirely a god, and that's especially interesting for this. It's not entirely a god. It's also a devilish creature, and like Prometheus, he offered or created the fire for humanity. He created Tehuelche people, who were the inhabitants of Patagonia. When Shakespeare talks about Setebos, it's just mentioned as the god to whom Caliban please. Right. That Setebos, that name, is not invented by Shakespeare. It's in the Magellan Chronicles, the first world circumnavigating tour in the world, and in those chronicles by Pigafetta appears the name of Setebos as a devilish hero and godlish who appear before them, surrounded by other devilish creatures, smaller, when one of the Tehuelches died. So they found the Welsh people. They were known to be very tall, and somehow they interacted with them, the Spaniards and the Tehuelches. So all that is settled in the chronicles by Pigafetta. So that's the idea behind this. Those people were before the conquerors in what now is Argentina. So this spiritual world, which governs also Cymbelline, would be in this adaptation governed by Setebos. But at the same time, I wanted to speak about that today, how that applies today to us, and through an ecological view. The fact that it's a story that is displayed in different countries, in different climates, in different languages as well in Cymbelline, to end up being an interior discovery. So you have to go all through the world, through the different topographies, etc., just to understand who you are. And that has to do with the Greek Delphos oracle. Who are you? Or, for that point, cultiver ton jardin. It's just some of those things that after going all over the world, after suffering a number of situations that make you change your point of view of what's important in life. And this idea that this God and those other little devils appear when one of the Tehuelches died, and they danced. That's also from the chronicles. That's also very theatrical. And the ritual, I wanted to take that, the ritual applied to this version of Cymbelline, because ritual, after all, is at the roots of theater. So I wanted to go to the origins of everything. Also the appearance of Jupiter in Cymbelline is one of those masks scenes. So the idea of mask and masks as well, mask as a genre and mask have also to do with carnival in Argentina, in northern Argentina especially, is an homage to Pachamama, who is Mother Earth. So it all has to do. That's the how could I put up? Can one say caldo de cultivo? It's wrong image. It's a scientific word concept of creating the conditions for something to live, some kind of life to carry on. Well, there are a number of meta-theatrical devices in this adaptation. One of the things I want to convey is that the idea of whales in Cymbelline has marvelous parallel in Argentina, because something like 150 years ago, a number of Welsh people went to Argentina, to southern Argentina, to Patagonia, to live there, to settle there as an arrangement between countries. And they settled there, they created a community, they are still there, they speak their language, and just to show you how it is so, when in 1995, Diana, the Princess of Wales, went to Argentina, she visited Patagonia. She visited the Welsh communities in Patagonia. One of the idea is also, I was an artistic resident in Centro Cultural San Martín in Buenos Aires, but because of the pandemics, I could only, we could only get 8 people in a rehearsal room, big rehearsal room. So 6 actors, my assistant, and myself. So I had to make every effort to tell the story of Cymbeline with just 6 actors. So what I did is, instead of putting on Cymbeline, I set a workshop just similar to what I was doing at the Centro Cultural as a resident artist. A workshop on Cymbelline in Patagonia. So in the story, there are 5 actors who coming from different provinces of Buenos Aires with different climates and different different local culture. They come with the customs, the songs, the meals, etc. They all go, those 5 actors go to Patagonia to take part in a workshop on Shakespeare. And that workshop that year is on Cymbelline. So that's the basic idea. And the coordinator of that workshop is called Dewi. Dewi is a shortened form of Dafydd, which is Welsh for David. So this character, Dewi, is of Welsh extraction, and he was created. He was born in one of those Welsh cities of Patagonia, and goes to the, near the mountains, in a mountain called El Chaltén, for this workshop. So the actors go there, meet Dewi, and Dewi tells them about those gods, those myths in Patagonia. But Dewi feels there's something more than just a mere myth. So could you please just share the first bit of video?
No tuve oportunidad de presentarme. Soy Debbie. Bienvenidos al taller Shakespeare en la Patagonia y al Chaltén.
Wow.
A ver si recuerdo los nombres. O sea, Ángeles, Eleuterio, Teresa,
violet trousers. She's a more spiritual character. And they are all looking at El Chalten. This mountain used to be called Fitzroy until the original name of El Chalten was restored. El Chalten means, it's a Welsh word, which means mountain, just it's something that conveys the idea of a volcano, but it's not a volcano. It's a mountain, except that the clouds go around the top and stay there, creating the illusion of vapor, but it's not. Each of these 5 actors who go to take this workshop don't know that they will embark in a spiritual journey, just like Imogen. But they all will get to know themselves better at the end of the play. Each character actor who takes the workshop will discover that they could inhabit some of those gods or characters of the Tehuelche mythology. So the chap there doesn't know that he's going to incarnate Setebos himself. This girl there will be a condor, because Tehuelches think animals are the brothers and sisters. And the Setebos myth tells that he was born, he's the result of the rape of a giant and a cloud. So as a result, Setebos is born, and the giant wants to kill him. So to prevent the giant from killing him, the grandmother, who is a mouse, will ask all the birds, the big birds in Patagonia, to help her. And the first to come is not a condor, is a swan. And that also relates to Cymbelline, the swan. So the swan takes him out of that island where he was born to the top of El Chalten. And that's why El Chalten is a magical mountain. So this girl will discover towards the end of the spoiler, towards the end of the play, that she is the condor who will stay awake day and night caring for that baby who will eventually be Setebos. Can we go on, please?
A ver si recuerdo. Ángeles, Eleuterio, Teresa y...
Miren esto. Impresionante el paisaje.
As you can see, that girl, the one here at my right, that actress has a red hat. And that hat will be used because they are not going to put on Cymbellino, but to analyze it in a workshop. So they are not provided with clothing or costumes for the roles. And as in any rehearsal, they take anything that's there to make it as if it were the crown or the weapon or whatever. So that hat will be the hat that any of them who happens to play Pisanio, because they keep rotating the roles. That red hat will be Pisanio, whoever plays Pisanio. We know because it's using that red. The girl with the violet trousers, because she doesn't know yet, but she's going to play immediately, in a while, will play Posthumous. So those are Posthumous trousers, the ones that Cloten would like to get. And also Cloten will be played by the chap in the orange, who also will be Septimus. So you see that the one at the left has a short white poncho. That's Joey. That's the coordinator of the workshop. And he doesn't know yet, but he's the swan. That's why he has that short poncho white. Right. What they are about to do is something that connects with all the Forstiger idea. It's a cry that has a funny name in Spanish. It's not in Spanish, it's in Guarani, which is an indigenous tongue. Sapucai means a cry, very long, very sharp, which is part of typical traditional songs, and but also it's to convey good spirits, but also to convey the devil. So it's all very difficult to balance what's devilish and what's good. So that's Septimus. So they did, when they, as a joke, because these things, these Faustical things begin always as a joke. When, as a joke, they try to see who sings the longest, the shrillest, the sharpest Sapucai, they are moving certain energies that they don't realize now, but the chap who will discover that he's Septimus will begin to feel something there before the sacred mountains. Please.
Esa es la montaña sagrada de los tehuelches.
Ah, ¿cómo que sagrada?
¡Qué curiosa que son las chicas, che! ¿Quieres ver esta montaña sagrada?
¡Ay, ves ahí, famoso! ¡Cállate! Justo de que nos iba a contar.
¿Qué me lleva de nada? Después callate baboso. Dale, arranca.
Esa montaña es el Chaltén, que en lengua tehuelche quiere decir montaña humeante.
No será un volcán, ¿no? Porque me desmayo.
De allí descendió el héroe, el dios.
¿Qué dios?
Septimus, el creador del pueblo tehuelche.
¡Ey! ¡No! ¡No me funciona el teléfono! ¡No me funciona el celular! ¡No, el teléfono, chicos!
A mí tampoco me está funcionando el celular.
¿Por qué no nos sentamos acá y nos contamos mientras miramos el país?
Everything of the 21st century is not working. So, no connection. All connection is spiritual with the sacred mountains and with the presence of the gods, those Tehuelche gods. Please.
Ay, sí, site specific, se dice. Espera, no tengo ni las redes.
¿Cuánto más a la sombra que no agarré ni el gorrito?
¿Y qué sombra? Miren lo que es este ciruelo rojo.
Bueno, pero entonces, ¿cómo era ese el dios Setebos?
son creencias ancestrales sobre la creación del mundo y el origen de los tehuelches. El Dios del cielo creó el día y la noche, el sol y la luna. Con sus lágrimas creó el mar. Y con un suspiro separó las aguas, formando dos océanos, dejando a la vista espacios de tierra. En lo que ahora es el Atlántico, creó una isla poblada por gigantes. Uno de ellos, el gigante Nostek, dejó embarazada una nube que se llamaba Teo.
¿En qué me señalás?
Sí, perdón. El Dios del cielo le dijo al gigante que por haber violado a Teo, nacería un hijo que sería más importante que él y poderoso. Sétimos.
¿Y qué pasó después?
Para que no se cumpla la profecía, el gigante mató a Teo la nube y se iba a comer a Sétebos. Pero su abuela, que se llamaba Teruel, lo salvó.
¿Teruelesa? Seguí, Dewi, por favor.
Su abuela era un tucotuco, un roedor muy común en la Patagonia.
¿La abuela del granero y de Sétebos era un ratón?
Sí, para los tehuelches los animales son gente.
Mirá vos, nosotros recién ahora los defendemos como personas no humanas.
Ellos también somos nosotros. Los tucotucos viven bajo tierra y cuando salen roen todo lo que encuentran a su alrededor haciendo ese típico ruido.
¿Y cómo lo salvó a Sétebos la ratoncita?
Con la ayuda de otros animales, los llevaron rápidamente a la madriguera de Teruel mientras ella llamaba a las aves más grandes de la isla para sacarlo de ahí. El primero en llegar fue el cisne Kelp. Teruel colocó a Sétebos con mucho cuidado sobre el lomo del cisne para que lo trajeran a Patagonia. Y así, escoltado por otros cisnes, cruzó el mar y colocó a Sétebos en la cima del Chapín.
Cuando el mar Patagón alce a su paso los signos de victoria, volverá a saludarlo como un día en la cumbre del Ande para decir al mundo, este es el grande. ¡Wow!
He's telling the story of Setebos and of that mountain. So transported by that tale, the girl who will be the condor, inspired by this majestic presence of the mountain, begins to recite a very well-known poem in Argentina, which is called The Condor's Nest. Please.
Sétebos fue creciendo, y cuando logró dominar los animales más grandes, como cóndores, descendió del Chaltén. Vio que la Patagonia estaba desierta y los animales gente, creó el pueblo tehuelche que preparó el fuego para combatir las inclemencias del tiempo.
Me encanta esta leyenda, Dewi.
Sí, Sétebos sentía que los cisnes eran sus hermanos y que con el grito le habían puesto el nombre con el cual lo identificaban desde entonces. ¿Cuál era ese sobrenombre? ¡Basta! Mejor volvamos.
Those actors cannot help emitting them, and it has to do with the fact that they are connected no sooner they arrive in Patagonia with that myth without knowing it first. They are learning it now. But the point is that when Dewi tries to tell the story and just to pronounce Setebos triggers off a number of mechanisms. One of them is that all of them begin to emit the cry of the swan. The swans crying emit that sound. And that has to do with another name that Setebos had, which is Elal, because Elal is the onomatopoeic sound of the cry of the swan, And because Setebos was taken by a swan and had no one else there except swans and birds, it is that sound, the cry of the swan, that he takes for his name. So the cry of the swan is what they are emitting now. They are all swans, except the one who will be Setebos. What's going on? Well, now you see there are 4 actors and the coordinator in the middle. There's one which stayed there where they are staying because he wasn't taken away by the cry of the song. Why? Because that actor is the one who will feel that he's not one of the animals, little animals, brothers of Setebos, but the giant who wanted to kill Setebos. And is that actor the one who will play Giacomo as well. Right, please.
Final. Por acá.
Voy a volver mañana temprano a juntar el primer rocío para mis remedios.
Ángeles es una especie de alquimista.
Tengo una sed tremenda y está encima hablando de rocío fresquito.
¿Vamos a hablar de lo que nos pasó o nos seguimos haciendo los boludos?
Es mejor no apuramos el paso, dale.
Sí, vamos, Cami, el reflejo del sol en la nieve me está matando, no me traje los anteojos.
Que no trajimos ni los lentes, no, la verdad no cargamos los celu.
And even I asked them to lower that part of the proscenium, and I added just a few steps there so they have to make different movements to get to where they are going. It's a way of conveying all this idea of different topographies and also different stages in spirituality. Please.
Pueblo con mi ficha dominguera, camisa blanca o macha negra, en alpargatas, fajas roja y corralera, haciendo fuego con mi cinto yacaré.
Caímos en picada, ¿eh? Del nido de cóndor y saludando el regreso del héroe a un pobre yacaré que termina hecho cinturón.
Pero, ¿cinturón de chamamecero o domingao?
Tengo entendido que los yacarés no lo están pasando bien en tu provincia, ¿no?
No, ni los yacaré ni nada de la vida silvestre. Tenemos casi todo liberado, destruido por el fuego. ¿Pero por qué lo decís?
Después les cuento.
Vos sabés que tu provincia no es la única que tiene yacarés, ¿no? Nosotros también tenemos yacarés.
Así, en todo el litoral, son las estrellas de los humedales.
Y todos los años hacemos un festival de
Bail out
A ver, tu zapucay.
¿Estás desafiando?
¿Qué es eso?
Es un grito para mí de alegría o de dolor.
Muy bien, también es un grito ancestral para llamar a las fuerzas oscuras.
¡Qué miedo! ¡Está bueno! ¡Río seguro! Con el pañuelo atómico junto al mudo. ¿Quién te aguanta en la bailanta? Cuando el patao pega un fuerte zapucay. Y acá tienes el zapucay más fuerte y más agudo que pueda.
Parece que descansaron bien, ¿eh?
Uy, se lo pegó.
Ahorita, ¿viste ver el teléfono?
Ay, sí, menos mal que volvió la conexión. No, me puse al día, hice de todo. ¿sabes?
Igual la conexión que necesitamos es la de nosotros con la naturaleza. Sentir ingresar este aire vital del chantén en nuestros cuerpos. Respiren. Quiero que se lleven un pedacito de la Patagonia en sus corazones. Bueno, ¿leyeron bien la obra?
Sí, claro.
Entonces podemos arrancar, ¿no? Vamos, bueno. La villana es la reina, segunda esposa del rey Cymbelino de Bretaña, que tiene un hijo del matrimonio anterior, Cloten.
No, yo quería ser de Cloten. Yo también quería Cloten. Y empecé que yo de Cymbelino y a mí me toca ser la reina.
Bueno, la reina quiere que Cloten se case con la princesa Inoge. Sí, hija del rey Cymbelino y heredera del trono, para así apoderarse de la corona. Pero Inoge se casó en secreto con Póstumo, un camarlengo del rey que furioso lo condenó al destierro. Inogen permanecerá en prisión hasta que se digne a casarse con Cloten.
Uy, no quiero ser de princesita, quiero algo con más acción.
Pero estás loca, tiene recontracción.
Además hay muchos personajes, así que vamos a tener que estar abiertos a duplicar y triplicar.
Por ejemplo, vos.
Estamos listos, Epi, yo ya estoy lista. Ay,
Princesa,
dale.
Hija querida, no vayas a pensar que soy como aquellas madrastras malvadas de los cuentos. Aunque eres mi prisionera, puedo darte las llaves de tu libertad. Y tú, Póstumo, en cuanto logres calmar al rey, tendrás en mí a tu mejor abogada. El rey prohibió que hablen, pero voy a dar una vuelta por el jardín para que se despierten. Y así se va la reina que va a buscar al rey para que lo descubra.
Qué falsa que es. Cómo disfruta haciendo daño con amabilidad. Que no te vea mi padre.
No llores, amor. Seguiré siendo tu esposo fiel. Iré a Roma, donde me espera Filario, un gran amigo de mi padre. Escríbeme. Voy a beber cada palabra que me envíes.
Sean breves, por favor. Que si el rey los encuentra, se enojará conmigo.
Mejor que me vaya ahora mismo.
Un momento más, por favor. Este anillo era de mi madre. Ahora es tuyo. Para que cuando yo muera, puedas dárselo a tu nueva esposa.
¿Mi nueva esposa? Sete, vos quiero esta, no otra. Acá queda, que la prisionera más hermosa lleve puestas en mi memoria estas esposas de amor.
Fuera de mi vista.
Cuando quieras.
Seguro es más. El punto de encuentro tiene que ser por acá. Qué bien me sienta la ropa del Póstumo. Así que también su mujer me sentará bien. Las líneas de mi cuerpo están tan bien trazadas como las de él. Igual de joven, pero con mejores perspectivas. Soy más fuerte, superior a él por nacimiento, mejor que él en combate cuerpo.
There is a point in Cymbeline where Belarius says the snatches of his voice and burst of speaking. That's why Belarius recognizes Cloten after years of not seeing him by his voice, but not his voice, but the snatches of his voice and the burst of speaking, snatches and burst. So, in my understanding, he's a stutterer. So I asked the actor to try to reproduce that.
Mejor que él en combate cuerpo a cuerpo.
tu cabeza. Dejará de existir sobre tus hombros.
Quédate acá. No estás bien. Te veremos cuando volvamos de cazar.
Me quedo con vos, hermano.
There's just good areas here. And Morgana. And Fidele, there is a little homage to silent movies. So I made her just a little appearance, just like The Kid by Chaplin. There are little homages during the play to other performing arts, puppet and puppeteering, another silent movie, Nosferatu, the vampire, which is the scene, we are not showing that, but is Giacomo. He's playing the Baul.
Seduction?
Just.
Well, inside the chest.
Yeah, thank you. Just exactly up, very over the top. And they say, well, you look like Nosferatu el vampiro, Nosferatu the vampire. Right, this is a little homage to silent movie in the way Fidele looks. Please.
No es para tanto. Soy de tu mamá. Buena casa.
Como cocina. Cortó las raíces en forma de letras y condimentó la sopa como para resucitar a Santiago, la madre de Ceteos. Qué mal me siento. Mi sangre. Voy a tener que probar tu droga.
Fugitivos. Me estoy quedando sin fuerzas. Ese traidor me engañó.
¡Oh, Dios! Lo dirá por nosotros, estamos fuera de la ley. ¡Vamos!
¡Momento, deténganse!
Ya lo reconozco.
¡Ríndanse, ladrones! ¡Oh, de quién! Ratera, no me conoces. ¡Tu nombre! ¡No, estúpido! No te estúpido. No me dice nada tu nombre. Vas a morirte de miedo cuando te diga que soy el hijo de la reina. Te voy a matar a vos y a esa que se escapó. Y los voy a clavar de la puerta del mar. Madre, madre. Me corté la cabeza en tal clote antes de que él me la cortara a mí.
¿Qué hiciste?
La voy a tirar al arroyo. Así al llegar al mar, chapea con los peces. Soy el hijo de la reina.
¡No! Se murió. Se murió el pajarito. En una colina se murió.
Las hadas habitarán su tumba y los gusanos no se acercan a mí.
¿Dónde lo enterramos?
Al lado de mi padre.
Tenemos que prestarle respeto también al clóteno, que era nuestro enemigo. La muerte se presta respeto.
Iré a buscar el cuerpo.
te hagan daño, que no te embrujen, que los espíritus insepultos te dejen en paz. Noche con luna, mañana con sol, esta vida la de donde vendrá. Largo el camino, solito el árbol, canta no más corazón. Noche con luna, mañana con sol, esta vida la de donde vendrá.
Idea behind. When she recovers from the drug she has taken, I took in mind that those venenos.
The venom?
Beg your pardon?
Sorry, the venom?
The venom he has taken, it's in fact the result of what Dr. Cornelius did. So it's not a poison, a terrible poison. It's a mixture, and the figure, the actual idea of Cornelius in the play, and this use of his medicine has to do with a different stage in science, which Shakespeare conveys differently from Fray Lorenzo in Romeo and Juliet. This is those were alchemists, whereas Cornelius is the stage when medicine was experimental. So it was Cornelius must have been a member of the Royal College of Physicians. Please.
A mi forjada en Sisi. Caminé toda la noche. Ay, qué sueño.
Take a long time for her to recover. So when she finally begins to recognize posthumous clothes, and then she's erotically mistaking the body of Cloten, when she suddenly gets to the point that it's a corpse, a headless corpse, then she says, murder in heaven, murder in heaven. At that point, it's not seen there, but on stage, the girl who plays, who will discover that she was the mother of Setebos, will just collapse. She faints at the same time that Inogen says, "Murder in heaven," because that's what happened to her. Asesinato en el cielo. That's the mother sort of collapsing. Right. And the third bit, please. Just stop there, please, so we could see. The one with the brown poncho, that's the actor who played the giant and Giacomo and Cymbelline. So up to this point, which is the very end of the play, just two actors have used ponchos. The one playing Dewi and this actor just for the role of Cymbelline. Right, pardons the word to all. Let's carry on. And actors. That also came as usually in a staging of the play, something which begins as a joke, an internal joke in the group, and then it works all right and is part of the play after that. One of the things was that when I told the actors for the first time about Cymbelline and the story of Setebos, they didn't know. Nobody knows. It's not that because we are Argentinians, we know about that. Most people don't know. So nobody there ever heard about it. So they were so shocked, and they got philosophical. They lowered the voices and began to share views with, and then as a joke, Setebos, instead of Jubja, Setebos. So Setebos is named one after another, one time and another, until the end of the play. So this is going, instead of Jubja, they say, Alabado sea Setebos, longly Setebos. And I mentioned that there were an homage to different kind of performing arts. For a previous scene, which I haven't shown, but this final scene, asked a VJ performer. VJ is a projection done mostly in oh gosh, rock and this parties, electronic music, etc., and there are projections which are done by somebody who creates them. So he's an artist performing alive those images according to what's going on stage. So I asked a VJ performer to cooperate with those magical scenes. And you are going to see one which is the very end of the play. Please.
Estamos desbordados de alegría, así que vamos a liberar al encarcelado para que pueda disfrutar de nuestra felicidad. Aquel soldado pobre que combatió tan valientemente había recibido las gracias.
Era yo, señor. Ese soldado que acompañó a su hermosa y combate.
La curiosidad muy tiempo. Perdone la palabra para todos. Hagamos que haya paz.
¡Oh! Tremendo, ¿eh? Che, ¿eso?
Because that's the end of the workshop. That's end of the workshop. Everything was fine. They learned a lot, but something happened because the last words were "Alabado sea Setebos." Setebos appears, and it will appear, and there will be all those little animals that are brothers and sisters to Setebos. So please. Images of Nazca. Again, the grades of spirituality ascending. And all with ponchos. They are all wearing ponchos. Setebos with the fire. Prometheus. Stop a bit, please. Right. The actors, that's the end of the play. The actors will come just to receive the applause, but they will say a few lines, one line each, so 6 lines, where some of them taken by the soothsayer, others invented by me, but where it's an intertextual joke with the Tempest again, where the actors are asking the applause as a counter spell. Why? Because previously they asked the audience to sing the Sapukai, so they all stuck there in a Faustic pact. So they are asking the audience for that applause. When they begin applauding, they begin clapping, that's the rhythm of the musical from northern Argentina, which is the Carnaval. So again, with this thing about masks, etc. So please. And the Carnaval, Carnavalito, will be danced in a circular form as well. So just to end.
celestiales tocan la armonía de la paz.
Terminó el taller Shakespeare en la Patagonia y hemos revelado un mundo que no conocíamos.
Hemos ido visitando por estas entidades que necesitamos que regresen a la cima del taller.
Para que nosotros podamos volver a nuestros
They want to return to their provinces, otherwise we'll stay there forever.
Que siempre pueda levantar su voz y tomar sus decisiones.
Carnavalito is a dance that is danced as a rotation and revolution. So the same thing as planetary. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Gosh, it's 1 hour. I'm so sorry.
It went by very quickly. Would you like to join me here in the magic circle?
Oh.
Technologically. Monica, I am staggered once again by the richness, the conceptual range. The Tempest is an intertext. Brave new world, new heavens, new earth. You seem to get it all into this wonderful, wonderful adaptation symbol. It was all there. Wouldn't have been there without the depth of your research and your passion for this material.
Thank you
so much. I can't thank you enough. And I wonder if there are any questions or comments from either here or online.
I think I overstepped my time.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. We enjoyed hearing it.
I'll ask a question.
Yes.
Because I'm curious, Monica.
Hold on.
Great presentation.
There you are.
Great presentation, too. Really lovely. Really quite lovely. But I'm curious, partly for myself, because it was a part of our process. I mean, the concept is clearly, out of your vision and in your mind. How did you introduce it to your actors? How did you introduce it? How did you explain it to them prior to the rehearsal process beginning? And then clearly it felt like it was an organic process for everybody to collaborate together. But I'm curious as to how you presented the idea to these actors.
First of all, we analyzed Cymbelline. And through profound analyzing the play, close reading it, I was pointing things which later would say, oh, remember that, blah, blah, blah. Well, this is the equivalent for us. So put the focus somewhere else. But that was the procedure.
See. Great.
Something that strikes me right away is how you managed to take all of the concepts and put them under this umbrella of human ritual, and how you constructed these varying rituals from not only this post-colonial world that we're trying to envision here, but reaching into Shakespeare as well, and connecting all of these dots. And then I think at the very end, that's what I see, because theater, as you noted, is a ritual that we go to see, and we understand what our role as an audience is to be part of that ritual. And I think with your striking image at the end, that picture, the mask, really, you put it all together. So what were your thoughts on this idea of post-colonial ritual, and that Shakespeare plays into that? This because that's the thing. I don't know if I'm very clear in it, but that's the thing that jumped out to me very clearly. These cultural rituals we have.
Oh, because I read that in Shakespeare. That's my reading. I see that, and I put there. That's my view. Shakespeare always gives you clues, and you could take them or not, you could take some of them or not. I love to work from an interdisciplinary basis, and I like actors who also have different hobbies and different activities apart from the theater. When I interview an actor, I always ask whose hobbies he or she practices, what would you like to do. I just chat about anything else, but because of the way people speak, I already know if they could or not play the role. But all the other condiments are what make the richness of it. It would have been very different with other actors. So what the actors could give me, I just try to search for that thing and put it on stage.
It sounds like they really enjoyed exploring all of this mythology that is not only that is there in Argentina and also came from Shakespeare too. The mythology. You mentioned that they weren't even familiar with some of those stories as well.
They weren't familiar. No. But that once they knew them, everything changed, and it was a cohesive thing that made rehearsals playful. And I need, even in tragedy, I need to get the playing with things. So that was very important.
Thank you. Yes, and that playfulness allowed the different skill sets that you were looking for in your actors to really emerge organically, as Kevin mentioned.
I had also the help of a choreographer. I worked with her quite a few times. The same with a VJ. I worked with him in opera as well. So I tend to ask the same people.
Yes.
And they come back also, so thank goodness.
One can see why.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other
thank you all there.
Comments, questions? Or online? Well, maybe there will be eventually, because I think one thing...
Or they got asleep.
No. I don't think so. But it's wonderful that this is going to be preserved, because you've given a wonderful introduction to people who are not Spanish speaking to what to look for in the production. I hope one day there will be subtitles in English. Yes, that would be useful too. But we start with your fantastic presentation, and that really, you've given us all these rich contexts to approach this production, even if you're not Spanish speaking.
Right. So, thank you so much.
And a beautiful production.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks
very much,
thank
Monica.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, both here and from afar, who have joined us today. Thank you for making the time to do so. I hope you do join us again for tomorrow for day 2 of our performance symposium, when we'll have 4 more performances to showcase and celebrate and discuss. That will happen tomorrow. 1 hour, it will be 1 hour later to start than today at 10 a.m. Local time, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you again so much for joining us today, and thank you everybody.